Student Barbara Evans Cunningham is suing her ex-husband, store manager Bruce Evans, for his share of a Honda Accord purchased for their son. Bruce claims he never promised to pay for the vehicle.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 292 on the calendar, the matter of Evans Cunningham versus Evans. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Cunningham, Mr. Evans was your husband.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you have one child?
Yes, ma'am.
A boy who is in high school now?
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that a couple of years ago, the two of you agreed that if your son got straight A's or good grades, that when he was a senior in high school, the two of you would chip in to buy a car.
Yes, ma'am.
You purchased a car for your son, and the defendant did not contribute half the money for the car.
That is correct, ma'am.
Unfortunately, the car that you purchased for your son blew an engine within a relatively short period of time, and you were forced to go out and buy another car for him.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not asking Mr. Evans to pay for that second car, but you want him to pay his half of the first car, which no longer exists. Is that right? That's what you're suing for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Evans says that you didn't consult him about the car, and he's not paying.
That's correct.
Okay. So, how long have you been divorced?
We've been divorced, ma'am, almost 10 to 11 years. I've known Mr. Evans since I was 16 years old.
Okay. Now, when did you purchase this car for your son? The first one?
The first car, ma'am, was 19 July of this year for my neighbor.
What kind of car was it?
It was a 1990 Honda Accord, ma'am, four-door sedan.
And how much did you pay for the car?
The car costed $1,770.
When did you discuss this purchase with your husband?
Beginning the month of May 2004.
What did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
He stated, that's good, does the body look good on the car, does the car run well? And I stated yes, that my neighbor showed me where he maintained the maintenance on the car periodically. He stated that that's fine, go ahead with the purchase.
Is that right?
No.
Well, tell me what happened when she called you.
She called me and told me that her neighbor was selling the car for $1,500. She said that he was moving or something and that she could get the car. I told her, well, what kind of car is it? Because I haven't seen the car. Can I come check the car out or look at the car? She said that she know her neighbor pretty well because he lives right next door and that he takes good care of his cars and that she figured that it was good because she know him and she didn't think that he would sell her anything that wasn't
in good shape.
Right.
And what did you say to her?
I told her that, okay, then let me look at the car. You know,
well, you should listen to me, Mr. Evans. Let's not dance around with each other, sir.
Okay.
If things make sense, they make sense. It makes sense that she told you about this car and you said, well, I'd like to take a look at it.
Correct.
That makes sense. And she said, well, I don't think, according to you, I don't think you have to take a look at it. This is my neighbor. I know him very well. I know that he's taken good care of the car. I've seen the records on the car. And then you have to say something else. Either you say to her, well, I still want to take a look at it and I'll call and make an appointment, or you say to her, fine. Now, which is it? I
told her I still wanted to look at the car. I told her, I asked her when was the guy moving and when was the last day that she was going to actually get the car. She didn't actually purchase the car from the guy until the day before he left.
So why didn't you go over there and take a look at it?
He did, ma'am.
Shh.
No,
Just a second. He did?
Yes, ma'am.
When did he go over there, Miss Cunningham?
Ma'am, he did a drive-by of the car in June.
When you say a drive-by?
The car is parked in front of the neighbor's yard, and I shared with him, it was on a Sunday evening, he was picking up our son. I stated that the car is parked in the front yard of my neighbor. When you pick Kelvin up, you could pass by and see the car. He acknowledged that the car was showroom clean, based on the outside of the body.
I never met the neighbor, so I don't...
Just a second. You don't have to meet the neighbor, Mr. Evans.
Well, I'm saying as far as going to his yard and stuff.
Mr. Evans,
yes,
did you ask for the neighbor's name?
No, because...
Just a second. Is there any reason why you didn't ask for the neighbor's name?
Because I asked her to set it up so we could go by and look at it together.
What's wrong with you? She's already looked at the car. If you want to look at the car, Mr. Evans, you have to be proactive.
Asking her to set it up with a neighbor that she already knows is proactive. I just can't go to this man's house and just
No, it isn't. Listen to me. Baloney. Listen, Mr. Evans. Baloney. I'm sympathetic with you to this. When I read your answer to this extent, you said, well, she bought this car, she didn't ask for my input, and if she bought the car without asking for my input, I'm not paying for half. That's what you said in your answer, right?
That is correct.
And I'm telling you that I was sympathetic with that answer, because I think that it's wrong for someone, if in fact it's true, to Miss Cunningham to say, listen, we agreed 2 years ago we were going to buy my son a car. I saw my neighbor's car, I liked the car. I went and bought the car, and then I presented my ex-husband with half the bill. And my ex-husband said to me, I'm not paying for half the bill on this car that you picked out yourself because I didn't have any input. That's what you're saying, and I was sympathetic. But that's not what happened, Mr. Evans. No.
Judge, I never saw the car.
That's your fault. That's your fault. You have two eyes, you have a mouth, you have a finger that can do the walking through the yellow pages and the white pages. I am speaking. I am speaking, sir. Now, certain things make sense, and I've been in this business a long time. What kind of work do you do, sir?
Manage a payday loan store.
And if somebody doesn't give you the money, what do you do?
We try calling them and getting them to come in and
Now, when you try calling them, let's say, put your papers down. Let's say you have their address.
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't have a telephone number.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do?
Mail them a letter.
Did you ever think of calling information to get a telephone number? Have you ever done that, Mr. Evans? You know exactly where I'm going, sir. You get information, you try to get it from information. You take out a phone book, you turn to the white pages and see in the white pages whether there's an address that corresponds with that. Or you can do both and mail them a letter.
Yes, ma'am.
What I'm saying to you, Mr. Evans, you are a smart man. You're a businessman. If you wanted to take a look at this car, inside and out, all you had to do was be a little proactive.
She never gave me the person's name.
No, she doesn't have to give you. Listen to me. You ask. You did not ask.
Judge, I asked Barbara to let me come by and look at the car.
He had a key.
Shh. Don't ask Barbara. Barbara has taken care of your son for the last 11 years.
Barbara and I have taken care of our son for the last 11 years.
Let's get it straight.
Barbara and I have taken care of our son.
1, 2. You know what?
Barbara has not
means?
taken care of our son by herself.
Listen
I have always been there for my child,
Just
and
a
I
second.
don't want her to be in court saying that.
I'm speaking. Don't speak over me.
Yes, ma'am.
Who has primary physical custody of your son?
Kelvin is with Barbara because Kelvin...
Don't tell me because. Who has primary...
I do.
You do. Let me see the papers that give you primary physical custody.
I don't have them with me.
Okay.
When we got a divorce, Judge...
Barbara, turn around.
When we got a divorce years ago, I had primary custody of our son. I had him for the 9 months he was in school. She had him for the summer months. That's in the divorce decree. Okay, after Kelvin stayed with me for the first 4 years, then with Barbara kept calling and complaining and crying to him, saying how much this and how much that, he asked me, he said, Daddy, can I go stay with my mom, son? I said, okay, son, I don't have a problem with that. If that's what you want to do, I'll let you do that. I moved so I can be close to him. Barbara got transferred again to Colorado. I moved out to Colorado so I can still be close to my son. She got transferred to St. Louis. I moved to St. Louis so I can still be close to my one and only son, so I could be there for him to help raise him. So with her coming up in here saying that I have not helped and I have not been there for my son, that is downright ridiculous.
So then I'm asking you, sir, if you did all this moving from one city to another city to another city, with all that entails for moving, so for the last 6 years, he's been living with his mother. You've moved. So for the last 6 years, full-time, she's been the full-time custodial parent, and you've moved so that you could accommodate her work. Whatever that was, you've moved because you thought it was in your child's best interest. You moved, you've changed, you've gotten an apartment, you've got turned on gas, electric, telephone, you've moved, you've transferred registrations on cars, and you're telling me that you couldn't find out the name of the neighbor who lives next door so you could go and look at the car? Mr. Evans, I don't buy it.
Judge, if she had allowed me the opportunity to do that before she moved ahead, then that's what would have happened. But she did not allow me the opportunity.
Oh, stop
that's
it.
Just like after
Stop
the car.
Stop crying.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Barbara Evans Cunningham says ex-husband Bruce Evans owes for his share of a Honda Accord purchased for their son. Bruce says, Barbara didn't consult him first.
Now, I find first that you did in fact agree to pay for half the car. That she in good faith called you and said to you before she purchased the car, I have the ability to purchase this car that I think is a good deal. You said to her, is it a good car? I'd like to come and take a look at it. You're leaving it up to her. And she's a working gal too, I gather, because you say that you moved to accommodate her career, which means that she probably earns more than you do. So that she's a busy girl. So instead of you making the appointment with the neighbor, because I'm sure this is a perfectly nice person that she purchased the car from, and you're not a bad man. I mean, you're not an ex-convict, are you?
No.
Good. So the neighbor wouldn't suggest, I don't want him near me, or near my house, or near my children, or near my family. You're just a nice man. You're a nice man who's got a child who needs a car, a teenager. And you say, listen, I want to come and take the car out because I understand that my ex-wife wants to buy it. That's a very simple thing. Very simple. You chose not to do that. You chose to say, you make the arrangements. And when she didn't make the arrangements, she said to you, give me the $850. You said no. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $850. That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bruce has been very downright evil to me. He has always manipulated the system. He has never held a full-time job in his whole life.
My ex-wife is just disgruntled. That's all it is.
I have no reason to be disgruntled and upset because I have a very wonderful life. And my life got better after I got rid of him.
For her to get in court and say that I'm not there to take care of my son or not help with my son, it's just downright ridiculous.
I'm going to applaud and scream with hallelujah when you're out of all of your money. You're nothing but a freeloader.
So Barbara just got some evil ways about her, I guess, and that's all it is.
Don't have babies for men that don't take care of their responsibilities.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Pamphile versus Childers. Step forward, please.
25-year-old nurse's assistant Maiva Pamphile is suing the father of her child, 26-year-old construction worker Del Childers, for a loan. Del says after the death of their child, Maiva kept the insurance money.
Ms. Pamphile, the defendant was your boyfriend. You had 2 children together. Unfortunately, sadly, I read in your complaint that one of your children died. One of your sons. How old was he when he died?
10 months old.
This case involves an alleged loan. You claim that you lent the defendant a little over $2,000 to purchase a car that needed some repairs. Mr. Childers says you're just being mean. You collected $10,000 when your son died. You didn't share that with him, even though he feels as if he could have asked you to share that with him. He paid a lot of money over the years to you, and there was never any agreement to repay this money. That's your defense, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just curious, was there an insurance policy on your son?
Yes, ma'am.
Who took out that policy?
I did, ma'am.
How much was the funeral for your son?
$5,000.
Tell me about this loan to Mr. Childers.
Del and I, we've been together off and on since 1996. He moved in January 2004, and he started looking around for a car. He said that he wanted to help me and his other child's mother take care of his kids. So he wanted to get a car.
That's really nice of him.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He already owes $30,000 in child support, and I lent him $200 for a down payment so that he could secure the car, and he made arrangements with the owner to come back on the 10th when I could withdraw my money once I got paid again to give him another $2,100. So that was a total of $2,300. Once he got his car, he started coming in at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, not coming home. So, okay, I kicked him out because it wasn't working. So we waited a while. On the 24th, he kept calling me. He wanted to borrow some money to get an alternator.
How much more money did you give him?
Another $140.71 that I took out of my checking account using my debit card.
She used the word loan.
Just a second.
Those were...
Just shh. Do you owe her any money in child support?
I owe the state of California. I don't owe her. The whole time she had that policy out, the child support out on me, we were living together.
So, excuse me, what you're saying is during all the time that your children were born, the two of you were together, were living together?
Most of the time.
What happened when you weren't living with her? Were you sending her money for your boys?
No, but I was working and they were taking money out of my checks.
Do you have any proof of that, sir?
I didn't bring any today. I didn't think we would get that far into it.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
3 living children. So you had 4.
I have 2 living children. I have 3 altogether.
So you have 2 living children, and now the 2 living children are living in 2 separate homes. You're not living in either one of them. Is that right?
I am living in my youngest child's life right now.
And
He
when
was
did you
cheating on me with her.
And when did you start to live with that woman?
2 weeks ago.
Mr. Childers, it is difficult enough, sir, to raise a child as a single parent. You're not supposed to make it more difficult. You're not supposed to drain money out of that household. You're supposed to put money into the household. Do you understand?
Yes, and I've done that.
I don't care what you've done in the past, sir. That's what you're supposed to do. You made 2 children with this lady. You know, that's your responsibility.
And it is.
Anything can have children. Fish, frogs, camels, elephants. A lot of things have children. Even those animals take care of their children until they're old enough to be out on their own. All I'm suggesting to you is, if you made 2 babies, it's your responsibility to put money into their households, if you're not living there, in order to help support them. You're not supposed to be a drain on the household. If you can't afford a car yourself, you don't buy it. You understand each other?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,300. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have another child, a 9-month-old with another woman. When we broke up, you know, that's why she wanted to get me back for all the money she so-called gave me.
Instead of me getting the house that I wanted, I'm still living in an apartment complex that I don't want to live in.
That's an untrue statement. I didn't take a home away from her, you know. She kicked me out before we can actually build up more money to buy a home.
It just goes to show that you can't, no matter what, how much you care about somebody, you can't lend them money.
She can't have me, and that's just how it is.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of LeManc versus Minor. Step forward.
23-year-old Gerald LeManc is suing fellow partygoer Daryl Minor for knocking over his laptop computer during a party. Gerald says Daryl had been drinking all day.
Mr. LeManc?
Yes.
You attended a 30th anniversary party at the home of the defendant?
No, it was at the home of a friend of mine.
Defendant was a guest.
Yes.
And you brought your computer with you in order to play music.
Correct.
And it is your claim that Mr. Minor damaged your computer.
Correct.
Mr. Minor says that you balanced this computer in a very precarious way, that he did bump into it, but nothing happened to it, and you shouldn't have brought it anyway. Right, so far?
Right, so far, yes.
Good. When was this party?
August 21st.
Now, what prompted you to bring your computer?
I brought the computer for musical entertainment.
Didn't they have a radio?
We did have a radio on top of 2 speakers, along with the computer.
Okay, so you had 2 big speakers. How tall were the speakers?
About 3 or 4 feet tall. I have pictures.
I'd like to see pictures.
I have pictures of where the computer was and that it was balanced on the speakers.
Oh, I see where it is. I see it's balanced on one of the speakers.
And the ground there was quite level, and the speakers were level.
I see where it's balanced on one of the speakers.
With room to spare. There's room around the whole computer.
It's balanced on one of the speakers. Okay, now who saw Mr. Minor damage the computer? Okay, step up. Who are you?
My name's Raylene Luby, and I'm his cousin.
Whose cousin?
Daryl, Mr. Minor.
Okay, go ahead.
There was a tent there, and so I went outside the tent by the computer and where the beer was, and I was getting a beer, and he came around the corner, and he said, "What are you doing?" And then all of a sudden, he fell forward onto his knees, and the thing slammed shut. The speaker moved. He straightened the speaker back up, stood back up. I walked around. I said, "Jerry, you better go look at your computer." Daryl fell on it.
When he fell on it, it was during the afternoon?
No, it was nighttime.
Had you spoken to Mr. Minor earlier that evening?
Yeah.
Was he fine?
Well, he was drunk.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. He was drunk.
Sure.
What do you mean, sure? I mean, you don't necessarily
He'd
go
been
to a
drinking
party
all
and get
day.
drunk. What?
He was quite drunk.
So when he fell on the computer, he was drunk?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Go.
Your Honor, when I got there, it started at 3 o'clock. My wife and I showed up. They were playing Irish music. Party went on.
When we get to the computer, Mr. Minor, do you remember falling?
I remember hitting the speaker. I was going for a beer. There was a space maybe about 2 foot to get in there. The way the speaker was set up, it was set up so you had to go around it a little bit, which I did.
Did you have too much to drink, Mr. Minor? Your cousin says you did.
Well, they had Jello shots there.
Did you have too much to drink?
Did I have too much to drink? No, I was walking. I didn't have that much to drink.
I have 2 pictures there, Your Honor, with him with a beer cup in his hand, and he was drinking all day long.
Well, I assume that he was.
It's an anniversary party for my cousins.
Okay.
I live around the corner.
So what happened to the computer? Is that what it looks like now?
Yes. The computer was damaged, the screen from here to here, and in between in the middle. And it's shattered.
What do you want to say? First, who are you?
I'm his wife.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that he wasn't the only one that was drunk. Everybody at the party was drunk. That's why I left early. I do not drink, and it's no fun being with a bunch of people who are drinking.
I'm with you.
So I left. So he was not the only one drunk, and he was not the only one who probably bumped into that speaker.
Well, that you don't know. All you know is that that's his cousin.
Right.
She said the computer was working on top of the speaker. He was drunk, and he fell over, and he knocked it over, and that's what happened.
Right, that's what she said, because she was drunk too.
That may be. However, there's no question that the computer was broken, right?
We don't know that.
Well,
it's broken now.
Well, I know that. I mean, did she have a vendetta against you? Listen, Mr. Minor, when you drink, and sometimes you don't remember what happens because you drink too much, sometimes it turns out okay, and sometimes it doesn't turn out okay. In this case, it did not turn out okay. He's allowed to bring his computer to the party. He's allowed to place it someplace, and if you weren't intoxicated, then I would say, well, it's an accident. You fell over, and that's what happens. But when you allow yourself to become inebriated to the extent where you're not steady on your feet and damage occurs, you're responsible, sir. There's no question you're responsible. Then there may have been a lot of other people who were drinking, and there may have been a lot of other people who could have fallen over, but they didn't. You did. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $757. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If he would have stepped up like a man in the first place and paid for it, we wouldn't have had to worry about all this.
It's a party. They got Jello shots there. They had everything there, you know, vodka and watermelon and brownies, you know, it's good, that good kind of stuff.
When I called him about it a week later, he had forgotten all about it and denied.
Sarah Gardner is suing her former live-in boyfriend, Aaron Zaleski, for rent and a loan to pay a traffic fine. Aaron is countersuing for the unpaid balance on an apartment lease.
Everybody. Yeah, this is case number 403 on the calendar in the matter of Gardner versus Zaleski. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Gardner, you and Mr. Zaleski lived together for a period of time. It is your claim that he owes you for some old bills, some rent, and fines. Mr. Zaleski says that he agreed, when the two of you parted ways, to a restraining order issued in your favor. And sort of as a quid pro quo, you agreed to take on the responsibility of the bills and the house and the lease, etc. Is that right, sir?
That's correct, Your Honor.
As far as the fines were concerned, he says he never borrowed any money from you. So, when did you live together?
From July of 2003 through the end of June 2004.
And did you both sign a lease?
The first year, his credit wasn't good enough, so I was the only person on the lease for the first year. There were 2 leases involved.
Do you claim that he owes you any money from the first lease?
Yes.
So if he owes you money from the first lease, why did you sign another lease with him?
Because the first lease, I was giving him an opportunity to get back on his feet. He wasn't paying rent from his first place. His roommates were kicking him out. So we had the agreement that he would pay me back if I gave him the opportunity to get back on his feet.
But he didn't do that. He didn't pay you back. And he didn't pay his other roommates back.
Correct.
And despite that, you signed yet another lease with him.
At that time, he was an investment. I had already lent
He's
him.
a bad investment. That
Correct.
means you had bad judgment.
I did.
So now let's start out with lease number 2, because I'm not interested in lease number 1. When did you sign the second lease?
In May of 2004.
Did you sign the lease too, sir?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Very good. And how much was the rent?
My share was $505 a month.
Is that right?
He's correct.
Okay. Did you pay it?
I paid for the first month that I lived there.
How many months did you live there?
Well, 17 days after we moved into the apartment, she informed me that she wanted to end our relationship, and she instructed me that I was to go out and get my own apartment and take care of myself on my own.
So you're telling me that you paid May's rent?
Actually, we moved in, the lease started June 1st.
You mean the landlord gave you a freebie for May?
We moved in at the end of May. They gave us a few free days at the end of May to move in.
Okay. And he moved out when?
The last weekend in June.
Did you pay June's rent?
Yes, I did.
Show me.
I paid all but $30 of it. I have it all documented.
Let me see. Jack. What are these things, these receipt things?
Those were receipts that I was giving a copy to her every time I made a payment to her.
Excuse me?
Excuse me? Did you ever see these before?
No.
Of course not. He does nice tabs, but Mr. Zaletsky, what you're trying to tell me is that the woman that you were sleeping with every night, you would give her a receipt if you gave her $40. I just want you to see if that's what you're trying to tell me.
After this process, probably.
What does that mean? After this process, probably. I want to know, sir. You were living with her?
Not at the time the payments were made.
Oh.
Those were made after she had kicked me out of the apartment.
Did he give you money after he
No.
was kicked out of the apartment?
No.
Of course not. By the way, do you have a checking account?
No, not right now.
Did you?
Did I have...
Ever have
Yes.
a checking account?
Yes.
Let me
and
see.
It was from October 2003 to May 2004. Those are all payments made for bills and to Sarah Gardner, check duplicates, and bank statements.
Why don't you have a checkbook anymore, sir?
Because the balance that I had at this bank account was overdrawn, and I did not have time to open up a new banking account.
So you had an overdrawn bank account because you didn't have any money?
Correct.
And yet you were giving her money for some old bills, according to you, that going back to 2003. Is that what you're telling me?
She can be very demanding, Your Honor.
Uh-huh. Okay. 505 you owe her for June because you have no payment here for June, other than the yellow little receipts that I don't believe. Yeah, didn't give this back to me. He's got nice color. He did a nice job here, I must say. This is a very, very nice job.
Not as good as she did lying.
Sir, you don't understand. There is no payment for June's rent.
I have the original cash ledger with every payment that I gave her.
I'm not interested in 2003. If she was dumb enough to sign up with you again after you owed her, allegedly, all this money from 2003, that's her problem. That comes under the category of being dumb. I'm just talking about June 2004's rent. And if you can show me that you paid $505 for June 2004's rent, I'll give you credit for it.
Well...
Can you or can you not?
The total amount of rent due from the first lease...
I'm not interested in the first lease.
I overpaid her, Your Honor.
Listen to me.
No.
Show me a check for June's rent.
I cannot do that.
All right. Now, what about this fine, Miss Gardner? When was it? What was it for?
In October of 2003, he got his license taken away. It was for an old parking ticket he didn't pay for. In May of 2004, he wanted to get his license back. He had about $1,300 in fines. The only actual evidence I could come up with that I paid was $475. I know there was more, but I have evidence for $475 of those fines.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
What about these fines, Mr. Zaletsky?
That was money loaned so we could get those cleared up so we could...
We. I don't understand the we. Who got the tickets?
I did.
So when did it become a plural, we, so that we could clear them up?
When we were moving on to the next chapter in our relationship and our lives after she graduated college and we were moving to Madison.
They're your fines. Why should she pay them?
She offered.
Because he promised to pay me back.
Of course he did. So we have a new boyfriend, Miss Gardner.
Yes.
Does he have a job?
Yes, he does.
Does he pay his own way?
Yes, he does. And then some.
Good. Well, at least you learn.
Real quick.
Eventually.
Right. Learn from our mistakes.
Okay. Now, you, sir, say that she agreed to sort of swallow hard with regard to this entire debt if you consented to a protective order, even though you really weren't harassing her, right? Mm-hmm. So let's start with the fact that she signed up for a protective order because you were bothering her.
Yes.
You were summoned to court.
Mm-hmm.
You consented to the order.
Correct.
Show me where she said, I will assume all of the responsibility.
Can I just say something?
I want to look at it. You can say whatever you want after I look at his
See,
evidence.
it's the last sentence on page 2 and
Yes.
page 3. She stated it twice, Your Honor.
I'm going to look at it, sir. Oh, what she says is, Aaron owes me several $1,000s, but I'm willing to cut my losses to get him out of my life.
Correct.
Well, she is cutting her losses, sir. She says you owe it several $1,000s. I just cut it down for you to $980.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, ex-boyfriend Aaron Zaleski owes for breaking an apartment lease. Aaron says Sarah told him to move out.
Now let's get to your counterclaim.
Okay. Sarah Gardner kicked me out on June 17th, 2004.
Sarah Gardner, according to you, told you that she thought it was time for you to get out of the apartment, correct?
Actually, it was a trial separation where I got my own apartment and she had her own apartment, but we were still trying to continue to be friends. There were instances where she even cooked me dinner a few nights, watched movies after I was gone.
Listen, not Oprah. What's your counterclaim about?
My counterclaim is to make up the difference in rent accrued in the apartment since she got evicted and kicked me out. I signed the lease along with her mother as a co-signer, and the rent currently due is $4,985, and I am requesting half of that amount, which is $2,492.50.
Why? Who's suing you?
They will be suing as soon as the apartment is re-rented. She jumped the gun and decided to sue before it was closed.
Your counterclaim is premature, sir.
So would her claim be then too, wouldn't it?
No, sir. You lived there in June. Your behind was in the bed in June. You didn't pay the rent, so you owe her for that. You gathered up hundreds and hundreds of dollars in fines. She paid them. That is not something in futuro. The fact that you think that the landlord may come after you for unpaid rent for the lease that you signed is speculative. Do I make myself clear?
Clear.
Counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $980. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Said one more thing. Look up. Look up. Say thank you, God.
Thank you, God. Honestly, I'm just glad that it's over. I hope I never have to see him again.
Unfortunately, my best was never good enough for her.
He's got issues.
She gave me the greatest year of my life, and I've never been loved more by anybody so genuinely. And I'm going to miss that, and it haunts me every day.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Fernandez versus Holt. Step forward.
18-year-old homemaker April Fernandez is suing her boyfriend's sister, 24-year-old nurse's assistant Sheba Holt, for the return of a security deposit. Sheba says she kept the money because April ran up a $400 phone bill.
Miss Fernandez, I assume this is your boyfriend?
Yes.
Your brother?
Yes.
According to what I read, Miss Fernandez, in your complaint, you had been living with Miss Holt.
Her mother.
And
Correct.
she lived there too?
Yes.
With the boyfriend. And there came a time when you and Miss Holt decided to rent an apartment together. You gave her a deposit, $300.
Yes.
And then you changed your mind.
Yes.
Why did you change your mind?
During the time my son was in the hospital, and she would come up and visit.
Is he the father of that child?
Yes, he is.
How old is that child?
Now he's 4 months, 5 months actually.
Go ahead.
And during the time my son was in the hospital for surgery, he was only a couple weeks old, and my boyfriend and I planned to get our own apartment. We were living at his mom's house rent-free, and we were trying to save our money to get our own apartment. She came up with the idea that let's live together and we'll split the rent. So I went along with it. She picked me up, took me to the bank. I withdrawed money, and the day later I got released from the hospital. I asked her to pick me up, and she never showed up. So I changed my mind, and I asked for my money back, and she never paid me back.
That's incorrect. She lived with me because that is my home also. I pay half the bills. I pay the phone bill. I pay half the mortgage, everything. Me and my mother share the home. And so, yes, she was living with me under my roof.
That's fine. She gave you $300. You don't deny she gave you $300.
No, I don't deny that she gave me $300, but I also don't believe that I owe her $300.
Well, that's what you have to explain to me.
Well, I have a phone bill here from when she stayed at my house. I did say that she can stay rent-free until after she had her child, but I didn't say that she can run my phone bill
That's
up.
Incorrect.
And so when I got my phone bill and seen all these collect calls that she accepted from that young man who was in jail, I didn't feel like I needed to pay her $300 due to the fact that mortgage was due. We were all still living in that house.
Okay, I got it. Step. Miss Holt, let me tell you this. Generally speaking, you can't do what you want to do, which is write off the $300. And I understand you gave her $70 back.
Yes, I did because I
Okay,
felt
and you
bad.
acknowledge she gave you $70 back.
Yes, she did.
You can't decide that you're going to hold that for bills unless you had a contract that provided that she was to pay a phone bill.
Why would I need a...
Listen to me. Why? I don't know why. I have no idea why. She was staying at your house with a baby. He's in jail for what?
Anything.
What in me? But no.
Oh, I was in jail for a probation violation because I didn't show up to court, failure to appear. And so I had a warrant for my arrest, and I got put in jail for 2.5 months. Then I got out, and...
What had you been convicted of?
What have I been convicted of?
That was my question. You have the answer.
Well, I got convicted of what was it again? It was it was grand theft, but that was in 2000.
2000 grand theft. I want to know what you were violated on, sir. What underlying crime were you violated on?
I was violated because I had a dirty pee test because I, smoked weed or whatever.
Oh my God.
So I got in trouble for that, and I had to do 3 months, and I got out, had a baby, and, I wanted to get myself together and get out of my mom's
Sounds like
house.
the American dream to me.
Yeah.
Sit down.
Okay.
I have enough. Miss Holt,
Your Honor.
Miss Holt, listen to me very carefully.
Sure.
You owe her $230. Who are you living with now?
I still live at my same house.
Perfect. With your mother?
Yes.
What about
With
him?
me. And he comes in and out as he pleases, bringing his little entourage to come live on me.
Do you know why that is, Miss
Why?
Holt? Because your mother permits it.
Well, anyhow, I
Listen
live
to
there,
me.
though,
No,
and I
listen.
pay half of the bills.
Am I speaking? When I speak, you don't. Take your hand off your hip. Only attitude here is mine.
That's right.
Your problem is you live with your mother. This is her baby.
No,
No. He's her baby. You're grown up. You work, right?
Yes.
You help pay the bills?
Yes.
You have a responsible job?
Yes.
You've had it for how long?
Forever.
Forever?
Yes.
He will always be her baby because he's never going to grow up. He's never going to be responsible. You have to find your own place because your mother is always going to let him come back into the house. Always going to let him come back with his entourage, and it's always going to irritate you. So if you want to be free of that stress and aggravation, find your own place. Now I'm going to listen to you.
Okay, Judge, I just don't understand why she is suing me when I pulled her out of a situation where her mother, she's pregnant at 18 years old, 17, and her mother's getting ready to send her to jail pregnant. You know what I'm saying?
My mother, I don't want you to interrupt her.
And, all these things, and she's putting her out. And I stopped what I was doing when this fool called me from jail saying, "Can you rescue my broad?" So I go get her, bring her to my house, you know what I'm saying? Let her live in my room, rent-free, and this is what I get. This is what I get in return. I get sued for taking care of this youngster.
Miss Holt.
She's wrong. I'm wrong for taking her into my home.
Don't speak.
Letting her use me, that's what I'm wrong for.
Miss Holt.
Yes, ma'am.
You are morally correct. You cannot, however, take her $230. Do I think that she's right to sue you after living,
on me for over 6 months?
Do I think so? I think she lacks a certain amount of character.
Yes.
Right? But it looks like for every pot there's a cover. You get it? You get it?
Yes, I do.
Good. I'm glad I gave you a good laugh. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $230. Listen, don't be such a good person anymore.
You're right about that.
And find your own place because your mother's always going to take him back. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I knew that I was morally right anyway, whether I was going to win or lose today.
She stole from my son and expects to see him. I don't think so.
Now I hardly even get to see him, through all my help and everything.
It can be a possibility if she changes her attitude and changes the way she acts towards me and stop being so sneaky and conniving.
I'm going to go right and I'm going to let him go left like he always does.
For the cost of a plane ticket to Lisbon, Portugal.
This used to be your boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore.
Correct.
You and your family, I assume your family, were going to Portugal to visit relatives. It is your claim that you laid out money for him to go on that family trip with the understanding that he was going to pay you back.
That's correct.
Mr. Spearman says there was never an agreement to pay you back for the trip. You wanted him to accompany you. You wanted him to meet your family. And he didn't have the money, so you agreed to pay for it.
Yes.
Well, tell me about the agreement that you had with him, Mr. Santos.
I had spoken to him about possibly going, and I had wanted him to go. And he had always told me that he wanted to go to Europe, and he had wanted to visit several places in Europe. So I suggested for him to come with me, and he wanted to. So I purchased a plane ticket, and he had always told me that he was going to pay me back.
Why didn't he purchase the plane ticket?
He did not have a credit card, I believe, and he didn't have enough money to purchase it himself.
So he had no money?
Yeah, not at all.
Well, how could he go on a trip if he had no money?
Well, he had just started working in a new job, and he said that he was going to pay me back when he got the money.
Did you agree to pay her back?
Never.
Well, tell me how it happened, Mr. Spearman.
Well, we were dating on and off, and she originally went to see her parents down there. So she had the ticket to go down there. Well, we were broken up. We got back together. That's why she was going down there when I went. Sorry, a little nervous.
Try looking at me.
Sorry.
That'll make you even more nervous.
I know.
Jennifer Dos Santos says ex-boyfriend Dwayne Spearman owes for the cost of a trip to Portugal. Dwayne claims that Jennifer insisted he accompany her.
Go ahead.
I had to get the time off work at first, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do. When they said I could have the time off, I told her, all right, I could come, but I don't have the money. I have a bank statement that shows I didn't have any money. I was in the negatives.
She agrees she had no money.
Yes. She told everyone she was going to pay for me. She told my witness. She told my parents. Even on her live journal, I have a paper that says that she would pay for the plane ticket. I was like, why not?
Well, first let me see the paper that says she's going to pay for the plane ticket. Well, it absolutely says, I bought his plane ticket. He's visiting for 7 days. This is so blank. Fabulous. I want to show him so much blank. So much to do, so little time to do it. I have a good feeling about this.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I have a conversation that took place between both of us stating that he would pay me back.
I'd like to see it.
I highlighted some of the main parts, and there's 2 screen names listed. I don't know if you can figure it out.
He says, I said I'll pay you back eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing that for myself. Technically, though, I didn't want to go. You offered, I said yes. I'd win. It's your word against mine. But then you do agree to pay her back, sir, right?
She kept hounding me.
No, that was the first time I had spoken to him since we broke up. And then I spoke to him afterwards, and he had told me that after that conversation took place, and he said he was not going to pay me back.
She's only doing this out of spite, though. There's no
She
just
spite.
wanted me to go. After we broke up, that's the only time this ever came about.
I tend to believe you.
Your Honor, may I see that for a second?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Your Honor. May I step up and say something?
Absolutely.
I was
First,
there.
tell me your name.
I'm Andrew Palua. I was there the day that they told me that they were going to Portugal, and I kept on making jokes, he's in debt, he can't afford it. She blatantly said it was a gift, and he had not had to pay her back on many occasions.
Just a second. Didn't you hear what I just said? I know that you had something that you were dying to get out and dying to say. But is there anything different from what you said than what I just said?
No.
Then you can sit down. Thank you very much. I have other things to do today. Have you looked at that now?
Yes, I actually had a comment about it.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm not denying it, but any person, I know 9th graders that could type this up and then bring
No,
it
but
to court.
I don't think 9th graders, I got news for you. I couldn't
have the
type it up on that machine,
Sorry.
whatever that machine is. And I've had more than a 9th grade education. The question is, did you in fact write it?
Yes.
Fine.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think it should be used in court, though, because anybody could lie.
Well, when
I'm not gonna,
you
it's not in me
graduate,
to lie. That's
listen
why.
to me. Listen to me. If you had said to me, Mr. Spearman, I didn't write that, then I would say, well, you have to prove that he wrote that. But you did. I believe she wanted you to go. I believe she had a good feeling about your relationship, and she wanted to share the European experience with someone that she cared about. I believe that after you broke up, when you came back, then, Mr. Spearman, you're probably a man of good conscience, and you agreed to pay her, right?
Yes.
Now, how much was the ticket?
$1,101.
Okay. And I tell you right now that the expenses that you had while you were in Portugal were limited. Your parents took you out for most of the meals that you were there, and whatever other money that you spent, you spent. But I believe he has the responsibility to pay you back for his airplane ticket. You agree with that, sir?
No, but I respect it.
I'm glad, because that email, or whatever that is, that conversation that you had, suggests that you are a man of good character. You don't want me to think otherwise, do you?
No.
Great. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,101. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Save our relationship.
It's untrue. I'm happy in a new relationship, and it has nothing to do with that.
Probably no future, ever.
It's ancient history. I'm moving away, and I can't wait to be gone from all of it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hill versus Secord, step forward, please.
Field Tech Stephen Hill is suing his wife's ex-husband, cable installer George Secord, for a furniture debt. Stephen says George is not abiding by his divorce agreement.
Mr. Hill, you are currently married to the defendant's former wife.
Correct.
How long had you been married to Mrs. Hill?
Nearly 10 years.
Do you have children?
2.
How old are they?
11 and 15.
And when were you divorced?
1999.
You had a separation agreement?
Yes.
And the separation agreement was incorporated into the terms of your divorce?
Yes.
You were represented by an attorney?
Correct.
And your former wife had an attorney?
She sure did.
And the two of you, through your attorneys, got together and hammered out the terms of an amicable support.
Correct.
The distribution of marital property.
Yes.
And the distribution of debts.
Yep.
Yes would be your answer.
Yes.
According to the terms of the judgment of divorce, the defendant agreed to assume certain marital debt. The debt that is in question is for furniture.
Correct.
Furniture which he kept.
Yes.
And he said, I want to keep the furniture, I'm going to pay for it. And he didn't.
Correct.
Certainly the credit card company that financed this furniture wasn't a party to your judgment of divorce, Mr. Secord, is that correct?
No, they weren't.
So they weren't letting your former wife off the hook because she was a signatory on the loan.
Right.
So when you did not pay pursuant to your judgment of divorce that debt, they went after your former wife.
Right.
And since she and her present husband had a joint bank account, right?
Yes.
They attached his bank account. Mr. Hill was forced to pay this $4,700 in order to get his bank account back and to clear his wife's credit. Now, in what year, sir, did they attach your bank account?
That'd be 2004.
And the divorce was in 1999.
Correct.
So I'd like you to explain to me, Mr. Secord, between 1999 and, say, 2002, why you did not take care of this debt.
I was in litigation with the company to work out a payment to be washed of the whole thing, which at
Just
that
a
time...
second, you're talking gibberish to me now.
They were ready to settle for 15 cents on the dollar to wipe the whole bill out at that point. And I, at that time, told them, yes, I'd take it. And I was unable to settle up with them in the time they wanted to be settled with, so they went after her. And when they went after her, she didn't go to court to stand up for herself or show them that there was a divorce agreement and it was my bill now. And they got a judgment against her. Eventually, after they got married...
You're looking at him as if he's a god. Who are you?
Excuse me?
I said you're looking at him as if he's a god.
Maybe
Would you
he
please
is.
would you please tell me who you are?
I'm his girlfriend.
Your girlfriend. Ooh. Listen to me. Do you have children?
No.
Keep it that way. Listen to me, Mr. Secord. Let us understand each other, sir. You have 2 children with this lady, and you did the wrong thing. And when you stand there and make a fool of yourself in front of 10 million people, it's really irritating. You assumed a responsibility. I'm speaking. You assumed a responsibility. Your responsibility, pursuant to the judgment of divorce, was to take care of this debt. By you settling with the company for 15 cents on the dollar, that takes the credit of both you and your wife down about 10 pegs. Because if somebody else wants to lend her money, they're going to look and they're going to say, listen, the last debt she incurred, she got rid of by paying off 15 cents on the dollar. They don't care who paid it off. It's a bad debt.
Well,
that's something that you... Hey. What do you do?
If she was so concerned about it, why didn't
Throw
she
her
go
out
to
of
court?
here. Throw her out of here. Throw her out. Throw her out.
Your Honor, may I speak?
Not necessary. Does it sound like you're losing? The only losing thing that you did was make 2 children with him. I hope they're nice children. We're going to hope you take good care of him, because he's a loser. And you're very lucky to have gotten rid of him before you wasted any more time with him. I'm sure it cost you a lot more. This is not going to cost you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,700. That's all. Put him out, too.
Well, parties are excused. You may step out.
He was unwilling to pay for debts that he incurred, and the only way to get any money from him is to take him to court.
Well, it's just a lack of communication and not getting things taken care of in the proper form that they should have been.
Financial hardships. Our checking account got frozen right after we had 2 newborn twins.
I'm sorry that it had to come to this.
Women are evil.
22-year-old carpenter Gregory Korthel is suing his ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old store co-manager Emily DeTora, for an unpaid loan to buy a Mitsubishi Lancer. Emily says Gregory wanted her to have a safe vehicle.
Come to order, all rise. This is case number 122 on the calendar in the matter of Korthel versus DeTora. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Korthel, the defendant was your girlfriend, and I gather from your complaint that for a period of time you lived with her in your mother's house.
That's correct.
How old was she when you were living with her in your mother's house?
20 years old.
Is that a question? I don't know the answer.
20 years old.
20. According to you, in March of last year, you loaned her money to put down on a car. She needed a car.
That's correct.
You broke up the end of November, and you want your money back.
That's correct.
And the defendant says that you did, in fact, give her some money, but that was a gift. So, how long had you been living with her when you gave her this money?
Approximately 3 months.
And how did it come about that she moved in with you in your mother's house?
She got kicked out of her mom's house about 2 months after we started dating because we were going on vacation and her mom didn't want her to go. So her mom kicked her out. So
Just a minute. Why didn't she want her to go, Mr.
Because she didn't think it was right because we were going out so soon into the relationship and she didn't want her to go. Even though I told her that my parents were going to be there, we were going to get a hotel with my parents, so there was no unsupervised sleeping with or anything like that.
And her mother said, I don't want her to go. You only know her for a month.
For a month, yes.
And she went anyway.
She went, yes.
So her mother kicked her out.
Yes.
You live under my roof, you abide by my rules, right?
Actually, my mother told me she kicked me out because she said I was old enough to live out on my own, because I was going to be 20.
Nah. Nah, that's not true. His story's much better, much more logical. So she moved into your mother's house. When she moved in, did she have her own room or did she share your room?
She shared my room with me, on her own bed in my mom's house. That was the whole thing for moving in with us. My parents will allow us to do that. That's the only way she'd be able to move in if she had her own bed, but in the same room because it was a small house. After the fact that she moved in with us, she was at a job. Her car got stolen from her job. They found it. It was damaged. I said, why don't we just go out and finance a car and get you in a new car so you don't have to worry about that. Soon after that, her job fired her, and then she was jobless for 2 months. She was jobless for about 2 months. And I kept on telling her to go out and get a job, get a couple applications a day. You know, I can't pay all your bills for you. And we finally financed that car.
I thought you financed the car before that, sir.
We financed the car before that.
Yeah, and then she lost her job. Isn't that what you told me?
Then she lost her job, yes.
Right. Don't confuse me.
Okay.
You know, I know I'm not as young as you are, but be kind to older people. You know, try not to confuse them. First, you gave her part of the down payment for the car.
I paid for the whole...
How much did you give her?
I gave her $25.61 was the first original. I wrote the check out for that. Then that Friday, she paid me $1,400.
I actually paid him $1,600, and that was for my down payment because he wanted to pay the taxes.
How much did you give her for the down payment?
I gave her, minus the money she gave me, was $1,200.
Go ahead, so.
Before I said I would give her the money, I said, the only way that I'm going to do this is that you agreed to pay me back here and right now before that. And she said, yes, I will agree to pay you back, but it's not going to be it's not going to be right away. It's going to be over the next couple of months. I said, that's fine. There's no problem with that.
Did you say that to him, Mr. Tora?
No.
What did you say to him?
I was going to put my taxes, title, and registration in with my financing, and he didn't want me to. I did pay. I have a duplicate for $1,600.
Well, what did you say to him about the down payment that he put in?
What happened was he paid for the whole thing, and I paid him back for the down payment, and he was going to pay for the taxes, title, and registration as a gift, like we were going out.
That's not true.
Now, Mr. Korthel, when you started telling me this story, sir, you said after her car was damaged, why don't we go ahead and get you a better car? Now, what part was your we?
We was just go to look and find her something else.
I actually wanted I wanted like an older car I didn't want a brand new one.
Nobody twisted your arm.
I don't even want the car I have. Like, I didn't even want it. I went back to the dealership 2 weeks later to see if I could trade it in, because Greg was like, well, there was 3 cars, and they were all Lancers. The only thing I got to pick out was the color.
Now, Mr. Corthell, you continued to live with the
She continued to live with me.
Listen to me. March, April, right?
Yes.
May.
Yep.
June.
That's correct.
July.
Yep.
August.
August.
September.
September.
October.
Yes.
Most of November until the 4th week in November. Thanksgiving.
No, the beginning of November, she moved out.
I thought you said it was Thanksgiving.
That's when we broke up.
Oh.
She moved out the beginning of November because we couldn't get along too well.
Okay. 9 months.
9 months.
How much money did she give you back in March?
March, she didn't give me nothing at all.
April.
Nothing at all.
May.
$10.
For what?
$10 just to pay me back because she said she would.
June.
June, she gave me $20.
July.
Nothing.
August.
$200 because she sold her Cavalier to the dealer, or not the dealer, the mechanic that was going to repair it.
September.
$10.
October.
Nothing. There's nothing been since.
November. Now, Mr. Corthell, I would like you to tell me how you remember the various months that she gave you $10 and $20.
Right here, I got it all written down.
Let me see.
Every time.
Mr. Corthell, do you think I'm a fool?
No, it's exactly. She saw every time.
Just a second. Do you think I'm a fool, sir?
No, I don't think you're a fool at all.
This was all written at the same time.
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying? This was all written at the same time.
Well, I have the original copy if you want. Like,
oh, yeah, I want to see it.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Friend Emily DeTora owes for a loan to buy a Mitsubishi Lancer. Emily claims Gregory gave her the money.
What's $174, sir?
That was for, I paid for our excise tax because she didn't have the money at the time to pay it, and it was going to be late. She asked me if I could pay it, and she told me that she'll pay me back after she got money from
And that's what the $200 was for, that I paid him when I sold my other car.
What's the $6 for, sir?
I paid for a phone. She didn't have enough money to put a down payment on a phone, so I had her phone underneath my name, and she kept on paying me every month, and that was the remainder of the money that she didn't pay me for 1 month.
Are these people, this Russ and Jason, these are other monies that were loaned out by you to these other people?
Correct.
Interesting. Did you ever see this piece of paper?
Yes.
When did you see it?
One day when I was cleaning the room, I found it on the floor near his night table.
Did you ask him about it?
No, I knew about it. Like, I knew that he kept records of, like, his friends.
Okay. Mr. Corthell, initially I didn't believe you. Now I do. I believe that you kept very good records. I certainly wouldn't want to be married to you. But I think that you kept very good records. I think that she was aware that you were keeping track of the money that she owed you.
Is that on there?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is, my dear.
Card, like, that was not something I had to do. I did not have to pay him back. Like, that's something he wanted to do because he wanted me to have that car.
Okay. You're driving the car?
Yes.
Who broke up with whom?
He broke up with me because he was actually cheating on me. He was seeing...
That's not true.
He was seeing a girl that he actually bowls with, and he brought her to the movies like the night he broke up with me.
See, your mother was right. Right?
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,150. You got to pay him back for the car. That's all.
Why is that excuse? You may step out.
I think that it went wrong. He lied.
She agreed to pay me back, and she was saying that she wasn't going to do it. It was a gift, which wasn't true.
There's a lot of ex-boyfriends that are cheap. There's just not a lot of ones that are stupid enough to go say it on TV.
She didn't pay a dime. All she had to do was help clean up and walk the dog.
He cheated on me.
She thinks I cheated on her. I never did.
He's a jerk.
I'm always going to help somebody out, but I'm just going to look at it again before I do.
If your boyfriend's cheap, walk away.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Washington versus Shonen, step forward, please.
Salon owner Daniel Washington is suing her former co-worker, manicurist Gianna Shonen, for unpaid booth rent. Daniel says Gianna quit without paying her tab.
Miss Washington, according to your complaint, you own a beauty salon. The defendant rented a booth from you in that salon. You claim she left owing you rent. some $300 is what your claim is. And Ms. Schoen says that you wanted her out. She left. She owes you nothing. When did Ms. Schoen come to you to rent a space?
I believe it was in April or May.
When did she start to rent the space?
I believe April.
And what was the rental agreement?
The rental agreement was every Saturday when she came in, rent was due $75 on Saturday morning.
$75 a week?
Yes.
Starting when?
In April.
Okay. When was your last day at the salon?
It was the end of July. When I got there, I had 65 clients that moved with me from a previous salon. By the end of the time of the salon, I only had 5 clients left. I have my bank statement stating the money that I had made when I was getting there and how it declined.
Your Honor, she's lying.
My last day at the salon was because I went to go put my booth rent in on a Saturday evening.
She's lying.
She locked me out of the salon. She had changed the keys. I called her that evening. It was very late, and she told me that she locked me out because she hadn't spoke to me.
Okay. Ms. Washington, at some point, you boxed up her things. When was that?
The last weekend in July.
Now, what do you claim she owes you rent for?
Booth rental. I have
booth rental. How much?
$300.
From when?
From June the 5th, she never paid booth rent. June the 12th, she never paid rent.
Okay.
June the 19th, I went out of town. She told me that morning, I'm going to come in and pay the manager. Don't worry about it.
Keep going.
June the 26th, she never paid rent again. She would show up and do clients, and we allowed her to do clients because she was thinking that we gave her a 5-day notice.
I was on commission
She was not on commission at that time. She's lying.
I don't know what commission is as opposed to booth rent.
Booth rent is you pay a flat fee every week. Commission is you pay out of everything you make.
So between the 5th of June and the 26th of June, how much money did you give her?
Your Honor, I was on commission during that time. When she took me off of commission,
I didn't take
she
her
took me off of commission. She told me she could not afford to have me on commission in her salon. In June, I was paying her cash. I was paying her cash.
Can you show me receipts?
She never wrote me receipts.
Everyone in the salon has a receipt book, and they come to us and put the receipt in.
So really,
you're self-employed. You're self-employed. Why would I give you a receipt?
If you're going to speak to Ms. Washington, you want me to throw you out?
No, I'm sorry.
You want me to throw you out?
No, I do not.
Do you have receipts from June 5th to June 26th?
The last, when I stopped writing checks, that's the last receipts that I have.
Why did you stop writing checks?
The copies of my bank
You're going to be gone. This is your last chance. Last chance. And you know, when I say last chance, it is your last chance. You got it?
Yes.
I'm serious with you. We don't talk out. This is a court. This is not a tea dance.
Yes, Your Honor.
You said that before.
I had went on commission. That's why when she
Just a second, Ms. Schoen. In May, were you on commission or booth rent?
In May, I was on booth rent.
And at the end of April, were you on booth rent?
In April, I was on booth rent.
So what you're telling me is Ms. Washington, who was in business to make money, said to you, well, you can't pay me booth rent, which is what I want, which is $75, but I'm going to allow you, because your clientele is not so good, I'm going to allow you to go on commission, which means I'm going to make less money for the entire month of June. She's going to make less money. Is that right? Is that what you want me to believe? Is that, I just want to know, is that what you want me to believe?
Yes, Your Honor, that's the truth.
And then in the entire month of June, how much money did you give her?
It's all written down inside my book on the money I made.
Can I speak, Your Honor?
Yes.
Every single time that she made money, she only every single time said, this is what I can give you. This is what I can give you.
Just a second. Ms. Washington, I believe you.
Every single time.
I have copies of checks when I paid her.
Do you have the book?
Stop!
We started having a conflict after my
Listen to me.
dropped.
I do not believe you that this lady who is in business to make money would say to you, you don't have to pay that $75 a week because you don't have a good enough business to pay $75 a week.
Well,
pay less than $75 a week. So, all right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She started off irresponsible, was not paying rent from the get-go.
I was paying my $75 every single week.
She would not do anything that we asked her, and she stood clients up.
When we got into the salon, it was so loud and noisy.
She had several different children that would come to the salon.
They played their music over. You couldn't even talk to each other.
People are coming to work to get their nails done and not to babysit.
These are clients that had been with me for 6 months prior to moving to her salon. salon.
She was not responsible at all.
They just said it was just too loud and too busy in there.
She wouldn't dress right.
How am I going to pay her what I want when she's the business owner?
She has no business ethics. She don't have any morals. She don't pay her bills on time, and that's probably why she have a minimum wage job right now.
She just lied. She just went in there and lied.
I'm a business owner, and I have to love everybody until they mess up.
She's going to have to live with herself.
I still care about her. I just can't work with her.
All parties in the matter of Julian versus Hassel. Step forward, please.
20-year-old security officer Jennifer Julian and her husband John are suing their former friend, 19-year-old sales clerk Jamie Hassel, for an unpaid loan to retain a lawyer. Jamie says Jennifer gave her the money so she could get custody of her son.
Mr. and Mrs. Julian, you claim a loan to the defendant, who used to be a very dear friend of yours. The defendant said this was money that she received from you, was money that was a gift that she needed. She needed it for a lawyer, and there was never any discussion of repayment. How long have you and Mrs. Hassel been friends?
We've been friends for about 11 years.
And when you gave her money, where did the transfer of the money take place?
Actually, we went and got it from the bank. And
who's we?
Miss Hassel and I walked 22 blocks in downtown Austin to find a bank, because we went to like 3 or 4 different banks before we finally found one that would accept my credit card to get a cash advance.
So you took out a cash advance. Now tell me why.
Well, she needed the money for a lawyer, and she couldn't get the money for a couple of weeks from her trust fund.
What did you need the money for a lawyer for?
To get full custody of my son, to have his father sign over his rights.
How did you ask Miss Julian, or Mr. and Mrs. Julian, to help you?
Well, John and I never spoke of it, actually. Jennifer had taken me to the lawyer because I had an appointment with him that morning, and after the lawyer told me that he needed a $3,000 retainer, we sat in the room, and my mother and I were discussing it, how we were going to come up with the money, and Jennifer offered.
What did she say?
She said, well, I can go get it out of the bank. You know, me and her have been friends forever. We've supported each other through anything, and she was there. She's Aunt Jenny to Damien.
I don't care if she's Aunt Jenny. I don't care if she's Grandma Jenny. She said to you, I can go get the money out of the bank from the cash advance.
Yes,
and
sir.
what did you say?
I said, okay, and I went with it.
Just okay?
Yeah.
You didn't say to her, okay, if you do this, I'll pay you back?
Well, I mean, I said thank you. I wasn't rude
That's
about
not what I asked you. You mean you didn't say to her, if you do this for me, I'll pay you back as soon as I get the money? You didn't say that to her?
No, ma'am.
You just thought it was very nice of her to give you $3,000.
I mean, that's what we did for each other. We helped each other out through anything.
No, $3,000 is not $50. $3,000 is a big chunk of change, especially when she said to you, I don't have the money. I can take a cash advance out on my credit card. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How do you support yourself?
I have a part-time job right now.
Who supports you totally?
I live with my grandmother.
Where does your mother live?
With me.
Okay, let me hear your version of it, Miss Julian.
Well, she needed the money, and she couldn't get the money from her trust fund for, I think, 2 weeks. And
Is that what she told you?
That's what she told me.
Okay, go ahead.
So I called my husband, and he said, well, the only way that we'll agree to do this is if she agrees to pay any finance fees, any transaction fees, any fees that come up.
And she said?
She said, yes, absolutely, I'll pay anything.
What happened 2 weeks later?
She just told different stories every time I talked to her.
So why do you think that you should not pay back Mr. and Mrs. Julian?
Because to me, it was never a loan. I mean, if she would have asked me, hey, I need this back, sure. I mean, we could have made some agreement. But she knew at the time I didn't have a job, I was taking care of my baby, and we were there for each other, always. That's how our relationship went.
Better off without her, my dear. Not much of a friend. Anything you want to say, Mr. Julian?
Just that my wife had called and asked me if it would be okay to take the $3,000 out of the cash advance.
When she called you, did she tell you where she was?
Yes, I knew where they were before. Because the night before, they told me that this lawyer was going to take it and she could pay him later. I said, that's not going to happen. Lawyers don't work that way. So I was expecting it.
Miss Hassel, if you don't do the wrong thing, you don't have to cry. Got to do the right thing. If you borrow something and somebody treats you well and somebody's willing to be supportive, you're supposed to do the right thing. You're supposed to say to Mr. and Mrs. Julian, listen, I can't pay you back all at once. I'll pay you $100 a month, $25 a week. That's all I can afford, but I'm going to do it because I live with my mother and my grandmother. I'm working part-time. I'll work a little bit more part-time so that I can afford to give you $25 a week. $50. $50. However long it takes. You don't try to shirk your responsibility and do the wrong thing with a friend. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was avoiding me. She was going to people's places. I had to go and hunt her down.
I guess we just should have made a better agreement. Should have had something in writing.
We needed that money desperately.
I was there through anything that her family didn't approve of.
We used to do everything together.
Most of her family didn't approve of her marrying John, but I didn't care. She was my friend.
Cindy Sullivan is suing fellow motorist advertising strategist Anthony Nico Van Prague for damaging her car in a fit of road rage. Nico is countersuing, claiming Cindy shoved him off his motorcycle.
This is case number 20 on the calendar in the matter of Sullivan versus Van Prague. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
I have a claim, Officer Byrd, and I have a counterclaim. And these two people were involved in an incident of road rage. Each one of them got a little out of hand. So Miss Sullivan is suing the defendant for damage she says he did to her car when he kicked her car with a boot, I assume, that boot. And then for having her falsely arrested for assault. Mr. Van Prague says she did in fact assault him. He is suing her for that. And he's also suing her for damage she did to his motorcycle. When she pushed him off the motorcycle, he lost control of it and it was damaged. They're going to try to explain to me by the use of these charts why each of them was right. You were driving your car, Miss Sullivan. You were coming from where? Show me.
I was coming from here and was stopped at the stoplight there.
Stopped at a stoplight. And then according to what I sort of put together in your complaint, you got a phone call.
Yes.
While you were stopped at the stoplight.
Correct.
And that phone call said that somebody you knew was taken to the hospital. You had to change direction.
Correct. Later on down the road.
Now, show me where you had to go after you got this phone call.
The phone call was complete before I moved my car. The light was red. I was in this lane. I was going to have to be in number 2 lane later down the road because I did not want to get on the freeway. I wanted to go straight to the hospital. There's quite a bit of traffic, so I knew it was going to take me quite a while to get over, so I put my turn signal on. You have to keep this clear. And there was congestion all over, so when the light turned green, there was one other car in front of me. It proceeded through when it was safe and could clear the intersection. I slowly started to go through. I accelerated when I see I could make it through the intersection. Just as I entered the intersection, I flashed by my driver's side and then cut in front of me, right about here where the median is.
Okay. So what did you do?
I flashed my lights at him, kind of like to say...
Just a minute.
Yes?
He passed you.
Correct.
Safely passed you. Didn't hit you.
Correct.
And you could have just kept on going and meandered over to the right.
Correct.
But you chose to flash your brights at him.
Correct.
In an act of road rage.
If you want to interpret that way?
Well, that's what it is.
Okay.
You flashed your lights on, hoping to annoy him, because he, according to you, went around you too fast and cut in front of you.
There is not a lane of traffic where he passed me.
What happened next?
Well, I proceeded, someone let me in, so after I made it through the intersection, I made it into the number 2 lane.
Good.
Traffic was stopped. My car wasn't completely in the number 2 lane. It was kind of like at an angle, but I was completely in the number 2 lane.
Okay. What happened next?
Traffic was stopped. I had an SUV next to me. I saw the headlight of the gentleman's motorcycle come out from behind the SUV, so I assumed he was going to go between the two of us, as many motorcycles do. And then I heard and felt something hit my car.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately got out because I figured he hit my car trying to go between us. And I said, "What the hell are you doing?"
You didn't say hell.
Yes, I said, hell.
No, it's not even what you say here, you said to him. What are you doing? Okay, you said, what are you doing?
Well, I didn't say I used profanity, as we both did. He started yelling at me, saying
Well,
I tried to kill him. He said he kicked my car to get my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that he yelled that I tried to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, you're the one that did a evasive move in traffic through the intersection and cutting in front of me. You're the one that could have caused hurt. Okay? So words continued to go, just yelling back and forth. All I could see was his eyes and his mouth. He had a helmet on. And I saw something in his eye, and his whole body in the motorcycle came forward. and I just had a split reaction to defend myself. I put my hands out in front of me, extended my arms, and
You pushed
backed
him.
up. Correct.
Pushed him.
Correct.
Okay, and what happened when you pushed him?
He jumped off the bike.
Okay.
As I'm backing away, he went to lay the bike down. He had his hand on the handle, the grip, and as he laid it down, it kind of spun a little bit. It revved up. I saw the back tire turn. It made contact with the ground. The bike rotated once, twice. He reached back, and I guess it's the throttle or whatever, and stopped from revving. He started jumping around, yelling and screaming, and I continued to proceed to my car, backing up, got into my car. He yelled about calling the police. I said, go right ahead, and I'm going to. I wanted to leave the scene because I felt unsafe. I didn't know what he was going to do.
Where's Sullivan? Why did you get out of your car in the first place?
It's just reaction. I thought he hit my car. It was an accident. We need to get out and exchange information. I didn't know he did it aggressively.
Well, once you realized what it was, why didn't you quickly get back into your car instead of standing out there in the street with traffic all around you, screaming and yelling at him?
I don't know. I guess I wanted him to hear my side. He was saying I tried to kill him. I said, no, I didn't. You're the one that did something evasive and illegal.
Now, at some point, you say that police arrived and you told them your side of the story. You told them your side of the story. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. But then the next day, you went to the police station.
Correct.
To file a supplementary report.
Correct.
Why?
Because when I came out, we had first looked, it was dark. They tried to look with a flashlight, and they couldn't see the dent in my car. You could see like the outline of a foot on each side. So when I came out the next morning, sun out, you could see the dent. So I went down to the police station just so they could put that in record that there was damage to my car.
All right. Can I see the initial police reports, please?
I have all the supplementals
Now,
attached. Do you
when
want
were
those?
you arrested for assault?
I wasn't arrested. I was charged.
Charged?
I received it in mid-April.
Good. Can I see it, please? It says that you did willfully and unlawfully use force upon a person, to wit, Anthony Von Prague. You did do that.
To protect myself, yes.
Well, I haven't heard protecting yourself. He didn't put his hands on you.
He had a 600-pound motorcycle that himself and the motorcycle moved towards me.
You say in your initial report to the police, you don't say that he lunged forward with his motorcycle. What you say is she got out of the car, she saw Von Prague. It's at one point she thought she saw Von Prague and his motorcycle lunge toward her. Out of instinct and self-defense, she put her hands out and pushed Von Prague on his right side. Okay? So you don't say that he moved the motorcycle. You say to the police, you thought he moved the motorcycle.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to him yet. Go.
Okay, Your Honor, I was proceeding in the number 1 lane here with my motorcycle. The defendant was trying to cross over into the number 3 lane, which is the northbound lane getting onto the freeway here, and she had blocked traffic essentially in all 3 lanes at this point. Her car, the majority of her car was in lane number 2, but the rear of her car was still sticking into lane number 1. I proceeded around the rear of her vehicle, opposite of her path to travel. There was about at least half the lane exposed there, and I continued on. The next thing I know, both my mirrors are filled with lights, and I look at my mirrors and I see a vehicle coming up about twice my speed, straddling the center line. So this vehicle had now gone in, come back into the number 1 lane and number 2 lane, and she went by me while swerving to the left slightly, and I was between the curb and the side of her car.
So she passed you.
No, she buzzed me. She went by me fast
I
and in my
understand that.
lane.
After, listen to what I'm
Yes.
saying, sir.
Yes,
You say she buzzed you.
correct,
After she shone her lights in your mirror.
correct.
You say she passed you.
That is correct.
That's
Yes.
all I want you to
Yes.
say. You say buzzed, I say
Yes.
passed. She
Sure.
She passed
she
you.
went past my vehicle.
Right.
And she went by at such a high rate of speed, I actually felt the wind of her car through my armored pants. We came to a stop. Actually, she was in the number 2 lane, as she described. I was still in the number 1 lane. Her vehicle was very close to the center line. I don't think it was crossing over the line into the number 1 lane, but she was very close to me. And I was lined up with her rear quarter panel. I was yelling at her because I had no idea why she had just done this to me, why she had just nearly
Maybe she was a nut.
Maybe she was.
And what do you do when you come in contact with a nut and you're on a motorcycle and they're in a car?
Well, Your Honor,
What is the smart thing to do?
The smart thing to do would be just to proceed in the opposite direction.
That's
yes.
right.
That's right.
But
That's
you
right.
opted not to do that. You
No.
opted to tell her how dumb she was.
Well,
by getting her attention,
that is true.
by kicking her car.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. So I knocked on her car once.
No, I'm not finished with my...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. As you would say, I acted badly.
Yes,
And,
you did.
And
Perfect. Just to say, I have an acknowledgement that you acted badly.
I am willing to fess up in anything I've done in this situation. So
go ahead.
So at this point, I knocked on the car once with the side of my boot.
No.
And
No. Listen, I want you to use the word that I'm going to use.
Kick. I kicked her car once with my boot.
You know he's a fast learner.
Yes.
Right?
I kicked her car once with the side of my boot. This is the boot here.
All right, now that we've used the boot, could you put the boot on the floor, please?
Yes. I brought the other one in case you want them. So at this point, her door flew open. She came running up to my right-hand side, and I was still in the motorcycle. It's a 600-pound motorcycle. The motorcycle was in gear. Both hands were on the handlebar, and the kickstand was in the up position. And at this point, the traffic was just beginning to proceed, starting with the number 3 lane and starting to work its way over.
Okay.
So
lanes weren't going anywhere because her car was stopped.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Yes. So she comes flying out of her car. She says, "Why the F did you kick my car?" And I said, "Why the F did you try to kill me? What are you trying to do? You're trying to kill me." And she ran through the list of names, a-hole, et cetera, and I was sitting there. She was in an absolute rage. At this point, traffic was continuing to move. Cars were honking behind us. And I looked at her and I said, "Get back in your car, you fat bee."
Go ahead.
She looked at me, she started shaking, and
quiet!
And she shoved me as hard as she could from my right-hand side. Well, once she shoved me, the motorcycle went over, and at this point, I had to take my hand off the clutch, and that's why the motorcycle started spinning around in circles. I luckily had landed on my feet, and I said, "I'm calling the cops." I went over and got her license plate number even before I shut off the motorcycle, and went back, shut off the motorcycle. At this point, she proceeded to the number 3 lane, got onto the freeway, northbound. I called the police, and I told them what direction she was proceeding, and they went, sent a separate police car, and went and chased her down and brought her back to the scene.
That's not correct.
Well, where were you stopped?
I went to the hospital, which is straight ahead. I did not get on 101 north
Just a
or
minute.
south.
So you went to the hospital?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I called Twin City Police Department, and they told me there were policemen on site to go ahead and return to the incident.
Okay, so you came back by yourself? Or
Correct.
You came back by yourself?
She came back following a police car.
That is not correct.
Well, it is correct.
No, it
she
is
came
not
back
correct.
following the police car, otherwise she wouldn't even known where we were stopped.
I know exactly
So,
where the incident was.
Don't speak to him.
In talking to... I'm sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Lee Sullivan claims fellow motorist Nico Van Prague kicked a dent into the side of her car.
I'd like to see the damage done to your motorcycle.
These are the pictures of the damage, and this is the written estimate. Those pictures were taken the day after. As you'll see from the pictures, the corner of the side bag is ground flat, which confirms the fact that the motorcycle was in gear when it fell over. I also have an affidavit from the BMW dealer who inspected it.
Not necessary.
Okay.
Okay, now let me see the damage caused when Mr. Von Prague kicked your car, which you did, sir. Is that right?
This is the
I
car.
knocked
Is
her-
that right?
I knocked her in her car once, yes.
You kicked her car. You didn't knock her with your tongue, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You kicked her with your boot.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you kicked her, and you were angry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so you didn't tap her. You kicked it. And you caused a little dimple in her car.
I'll demonstrate to you that I don't have the ability of doing that with this boot or my ability of sitting on the motorcycle.
And how are you going to demonstrate that to me, sir?
Well, I have the boot here, and I also have photographs of me on the motorcycle with a kicking action. It's a very high motorcycle. It's 600 pounds. It has a 33-inch seat height, and I'm only 5'11", so I'm actually on my tippy toes when I'm sitting on the motorcycle. I have a very limited range of motion when I'm sitting on the motorcycle.
Unless
so,
you're really angry.
Well, even if I'm angry, Your Honor,
Can I see a picture of the whole car?
I will show you these pictures.
I'm sorry, I do not have one.
Well, where is this ding in your car?
I have estimates here, but it's in the rear driver's side of the vehicle.
Your Honor, that's a BMW 7 Series. It's very thick sheet metal. If I could do that with any boot, I would at least have to be off the motorcycle. It's also above the bumper in an inset place, and there's no damage to the tail light or the surrounding bumper. So it would be a very difficult angle of attack to be able to get into
Well,
that
let me ask you
area.
this question, sir. Why would you think that Ms. Sullivan would go and file a supplementary report the next day?
I think to defend herself, because it was so clear that she had assaulted me, and it was so clear that she had caused damage to my motorcycle that I thought she...
That's a reasonable explanation. Eventually, these charges were dismissed. Is that right?
Correct.
Good. Were you notified of the dismissal of these battery charges, sir?
I had a discussion with the second DA who took over the case about 2 weeks prior to the trial, and he said that he would like to discuss the evidence with me. He felt that it should be best handled in small claims court.
Okay.
And at that time, I had explained to him that I would rather be done with the issue than take it to court again. But I was disappointed in their decision.
What happened that day was Mr. Von Prague was in a hurry, and he wanted to get around you, which he did. And that irritated you because he probably went around, to your senses, too fast. Instead of letting it rest, which would have avoided any and all confrontation, you decided to, at night, blind him with your lights by flashing your high beams. Unnecessary. Then Mr. Von Prague did something that was more stupid than your flashing your lights at him. He thought that you were trying to hurt him, and he didn't know what kind of a nut you were. So instead of just letting it rest and proceeding on his way, where were you going, Mr. Von Prague?
Home.
Home.
From work.
He decided to kick your car. Very stupid. Now, the next stupid thing that happened was you, not knowing what kind of a nut Mr. Von Prague is, decide to get out of your car and confront him by saying, "What the blank did you do to my car?" So you knew what happened because you got out and said to him, "What the blank are you doing?" And that car's all around you. He responded, "And what the blank are you doing trying to kill me?" And as my father's joke would go, the fight was on. But then, Miss Sullivan, you did something that you're not permitted to do. You put your hands on him, and I find that you were not defending yourself. I find that you were furious, and in a fit of anger, you pushed him off his motorcycle and caused about $660 worth of damage to his motorcycle. That's what you did.
Not in anger.
Yes, it was. It was in anger because you got out of the car angry. You were angry enough at him to put your brights on when he passed you instead of letting it rest. You were that angry. Instead of just letting it rest, you flashed your brights on him. I mean, I've been driving a car for more years than you're old, and I'm telling you, the only time you do that is when you are really PO'd. And if that's not the only time you do it, then you're a very bad driver. In any event, you're not getting a nickel to fix the ding in your car. All I'm doing, sir, is taking out what I consider the $60 that it probably will take to fix the ding in our car from the $660 that you want to fix your motorcycle. And since you behaved equally as badly that day, would you say that that's true, sir? Because you put your foot on her car in anger, giving you a judgment on your counterclaim for $600. That's all. Step back.
Parties are excused.
It's sad to think that a woman can't protect herself.
Well, I think we both acted badly.
A man admittedly aggressively hitting my car.
I was really upset about being run off the road.
I felt threatened. His bike came towards me.
And it was the wrong thing to do, but I was trying to get an explanation as to why she threatened my life.
Just pay attention to my own self and ignore anybody else's responses or reactions.
I would look the other way and have been since.
26-year-old factory worker Bree Berry is suing her ex-boyfriend, 28-year-old waiter John Hayden Jr., for totaling her car. Bree says John is a con artist.
Yeah, this is case number 26 on the calendar in the matter of Berry versus Hayden Jr. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Berry, Mr. Hayden was your live-in boyfriend until a while back, and according to your complaint, he took your car without permission one day, drove it. You don't know what happened, but he says he fell asleep at the wheel and he totaled your car. You want the value of that car because you say you were forced to purchase another car, and your monthly payments have, of course, increased as a result of purchasing the new car.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayden says that he had an agreement with you.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right?
Yes.
And that he doesn't owe you anything for the new car. So he's going to tell me all about that agreement in a moment, and I am anxiously awaiting to hear the details of it.
Me too.
Good. We'll all wait together. When did you live with Mr. Hayden, Miss Berry?
I lived with him for about 3 months from at the end of December until about the end of February.
Had you known him for a while before he moved in with you?
We used to go to high school together.
What prompted you to move in together?
I was conned into it. John is a very good con artist.
How were you conned into it?
He figured that we could help each other out by, he didn't have anywhere to stay at that time, and he was working and that he could help me with my bills, and that's not how it happened.
So he moved into your apartment?
Yes, ma'am, just like that. Conned his way right in.
When did he take your car and total it?
It was on February 11th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Hayden.
Well, I did have permission to drive the car. I drove the
Your
car.
Honor.
I had my own set of keys. I drove the car on several occasions. And
Okay, tell me about February 11th, sir.
February 11th, I woke up like I normally did and went to my where I have to go.
Just a second. Oh, shh, listen to me. February 11th, Judge, I woke up at...
Judge, I woke
Look
up...
No, look at me. Here.
I woke up around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
And you got out of bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
Shh, I don't want to hear you yet. He's talking. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You got out of?
I got out of bed.
And who was in bed with you? Look at me. Eyes.
The plaintiff.
Are you sure? Don't speak. Remember what day of the week it was, sir?
It was probably around the end of the week.
Are you sure about that?
As sure as I can be.
What do you mean as sure as you can be?
Because,
Mr. Hayden, I assume you work, right?
I did work until probably 2 weeks ago.
Fine. You were working on February 11th because
Yes.
you started to say to me before, I got up my usual time and I was going to do usual things, so I assume you got up 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning because you were going to...
To my rehabilitation.
What kind of rehabilitation, sir? Is not an answer.
Well, I'd rather not go into it.
Well, you have to tell me, sir, what you were doing, because I'm going to ask you specific questions, and I don't give a rat's behind what you prefer not to go into. Put your hand down.
I was going to get my treatment for my methadone.
Okay, so you were going to your methadone program.
Yes.
I've heard that before, sir. You know, I've been a judge for a long time. You have a morning methadone program?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And where had you been the night before, sir?
At home.
All night?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got up 6 or 7 o'clock to go and get your methadone at the program. And you were, in fact, working. So where were you working?
At Uno's Pizzeria on Beachmont Avenue.
What time do they open?
Around 11 o'clock.
What time do you do at your methadone program?
Anywhere between 6 and...
Look at my eyes.
10.
So what were you doing getting up at 6 o'clock, sir, when you didn't have to be at the pizza place until 11?
Because sometimes I go in early so I can get a few extra hours in.
Good. So you were being conscientious.
Yes, I worked 3 doubles a week plus the other days that I worked. I worked 6 days a week. 3 of them were doubles and 3 of them were regular days.
All right. So you got up between 6 and 7. And you had your own set of keys to the car. You got into the car. And what happened, Mr. Hayden?
I was traveling on my way to the clinic, and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Well, according to you, you'd been home the whole night before. Well, how come you fell asleep at the wheel?
Well, I'm not real sure. I've had problems in the past with driving, falling asleep.
How many times in the past have you had problems driving?
Well, I've never actually wrecked from it, but, you know, I've had several close calls.
And when was that?
Years past.
Not when you were with Miss Berry?
No.
Did you ever tell Miss Berry before she gave you permission to use the car according to you and give you your own set of keys to the car that you've had near misses with falling asleep at the wheel?
I'm sure she was aware.
No, I didn't ask you that question, Mr. Hayden. And I want you to trust me, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day. Did you ever tell her that you had near misses of falling asleep at the wheel of a car?
I'm not sure.
Good, that's an answer. Did he ever tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Of course not. Now, was this Miss Berry's only means of transportation, or did she have a garage full of cars?
She had 2 vehicles.
Tell me about the 2 vehicles that she had.
One was a Taurus and the Civic.
And which car were you driving?
The Civic.
Is that the car you were driving, the Taurus?
No, ma'am. That I had a 95 Taurus that had been broken down for a couple months. My only means of transportation was the Honda Civic.
Okay. Miss Berry, tell me about the 10th of February, which was the day before this incident happened.
The 10th of February, ma'am, I was getting tired of being in this little relationship with John because he wasn't working like he said he was. And I had asked him that, you know, pretty soon you need to find somewhere to go. You need to, you know, go live off somebody else. So he had called me from work and asked me to come home so that we could talk about it. And when I got home, about 11 or 12, and John was already drunk and nodding out, because that's one thing that I couldn't stand about him, is that he would always nod out, and he's burnt my furniture on the floor. So anyways, he slept on the couch that night. I slept in the bed. I woke up the next morning. My keys are gone. I always leave my purse next to my bed. I always take my purse everywhere I go. The keys were gone. I got a phone call about 11 from an officer stating that John Hayden was in the hospital, that he had totaled my car. So I called down to the hospital, and John just acted like everything would be all right, that he totaled my car.
So what you're saying is he had driven your car before. There's no question about that. Is that right?
Yes, but he did not have an extra set of keys.
But he had driven your car before, with your permission.
Not with my permission. I would get up in the morning and he would take it.
Well, then what you have to do is you change the locks and you put him out of your house.
That's too much.
You change the locks, you put him out of your house if he's stealing your car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. He says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Now there is something that you're going to tell me that would suggest that you had an agreement with her with regard to a new car. So why don't you tell me about that?
After the car was totaled, we agreed that if she was able to get a new car, with which she had no job except for about 2 or 3 weeks.
That's a lie.
So
it doesn't matter if I work or not.
Miss Berry, what part of don't speak don't you understand?
I'm sorry.
When you're on welfare, you can barely...
Oh, my...
I'm not asking you what she did. I'm asking you what your agreement was.
You can barely make your rent anyway. If it wasn't for me co-signing, she could have never got the car to begin with.
My mama...
Miss Berry, if you open your mouth again, I'm going to dismiss your claim.
Okay.
You don't want that, do you?
No,
and I'm serious, you know. I don't say things and then take it back. Do you understand?
I understand.
I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Berry, sir, with regard to your co-signing a loan for her.
I said, you put down the money you have as a down payment, and then I'll put down what I have, and if they let it go through with both of us being, with me being the co-signer, then you will have your car, and you will go from there.
Did she own the Civic free and clear?
I do not know.
As far as you know, she wasn't making payments because according to you, Miss Berry was on welfare. She could hardly make the rent.
Exactly.
So she wasn't making car payments. So what you're telling me is she took whatever little money she had, and you put in money. And how much money did you put in?
Probably $100.
And you put in $100. And then you co-signed a loan for her so that she could buy a new used car.
Yes.
And how much was the loan for?
About $8,000.
So what you're telling me is because you totaled her car, you obligated her to pay $8,000 for a vehicle to do whatever she had to do with it. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Then tell me what you're telling me, Mr. Hayden. I'm listening.
I would have been more than happy to stay there with her and be, and help her make her car payments. But she cheated on me when I called her before I came home because I couldn't get a hold of her one day. And she said, well, an ex-boyfriend of mine spent the night tonight, and I don't want you to come here trying to cause any problems. Granted, this is where I was living, paying bills, giving her money. I make about $500 or $600 a week, and, I just would give her money.
If you had, sir, $500 or $600 a week, why don't you get your own car?
Because I don't have a license.
So, Mr. Hayden, so you took her car and drove her car without a license?
I didn't know that at the time. I have an $80 reinstatement fee to pay, which I'm going through now.
Mr. Hayden, you got more stories than Damon Runyon. The fact that you tell me that I gave her $100 towards the car, did he give you $100 towards the car?
Ma'am.
No, of course he didn't.
Oh, you're right.
I couldn't even pay.
Of course he didn't.
I had
Give
to
you
pay for
What year car was this?
a 93.
Do you have the blue book value of it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Would you like to see all the evidence or just that?
I'd like to see whatever you have, Miss Berry.
And I don't live in Section 8.
You move people in and out all the time.
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, this looks like some bad accident. What did you hit?
A telephone pole. And you know, she didn't call to see if I was okay. She called to see if her car was okay.
That should have told you something,
Yeah,
Mr.
it
Hayden. Should have.
Yeah, she's self-centered, and karma will get her.
Car was more important than you were.
Exactly.
Right. I am assuming that you are now involved with somebody else?
Yes, ma'am. I was drug use.
No, listen to me. I assume at least in part it was because of somebody else. Part of it may be because of his continued drug use, according to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever. That is not a testament to your good judgment.
That's a bad judgment I made.
No, very bad.
Mhm.
And I don't care whether you're exercising bad judgment if you're the only one involved, but you have a 5-year-old child. And you don't move somebody into your house for 1 hour who you claim is getting his methadone, but using in addition to that.
That's why I got
you don't
rid
move,
of him.
Just a second. That's not true, madam, because according to you, after he came out of the hospital, you allowed him to move back into your home for a month. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old. You understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
More than her.
Okay.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
That may be, sir, but you still owe her $2,500 for the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500.
Parties are excused.
Step out.
You may step
Bird,
out.
he can have his water later, please.
John Hayden is a good con artist.
I could really care less.
Anybody that John owes money to,
She's wrong.
you should take him on the Judge Judy show
Bree's a liar.
so you can get your money also.
This is over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ewell versus Allen. Step forward, please.
Corporate receptionist Lori Ewell is suing her ex-boyfriend, Jason Allen, for his share of credit card charges. Jason says he doesn't owe Lori a dime.
Miss Ewell, you and the defendant were dating. He was in the process of getting a divorce. And according to your complaint, the two of you agreed that you were going to use one of your credit cards. He would use one of your credit cards for all of the expenses, dating expenses, his expenses, because of some machinations attached to the divorce. And that he would be responsible for paying that credit card. You gave him the credit card?
No.
You held on to the credit card?
Yeah.
And according to your complaint, he ultimately, the relationship wound down. You used the credit card, a couple of $1,000 worth of charges on the credit card. He gave you a check for $2,000 to cover the expenses on the credit card, and then he stopped payment on the check. Mr. Allen says that there was never an agreement with regard to the credit card. He gave you the $2,000 to help you pay down your debt, and that when you broke up with him, he put a stop payment on it. That's your defense.
That's correct.
That doesn't sound very convincing, Mr. Allen.
Well, I don't feel that I owe her anything.
I didn't ask you what you feel. I just made a statement. The statement was, that doesn't sound very convincing. So I want you to digest that for a moment. When did you meet him?
September 3rd, his birthday.
And tell me about this arrangement that you made with him with the credit card. When did you first have that discussion with him?
Shortly after we were dating, about 2 weeks later, he couldn't use his credit because he paid for like some of the dinners in the beginning, like the first week, and everything was fine. Second week, he couldn't use his credit card.
Well, what did he say to you? I want to know what he said to you.
He's going through a divorce, and that he couldn't use his credit card because of the whole legal thing or something. So I was like, okay. So we were going to use my credit card. I said, okay. I said, I'm already in enough debt already. I said, so just as long as you promise me you'll pay me back. And he said, oh, yes, I will, because he's going to get some money from refinancing his house that his ex-wife wanted to keep. So $30,000 was going to come his way. And he goes, don't worry, Lori. Well, then I started shopping. Okay, I was buying all the groceries for, almost every day.
Was he living with you?
Yeah.
When did he move in with you?
End of September. About.
And how long did that last?
That lasted till December 10th was when I broke out.
So what were you using the credit cards for?
Groceries.
What else?
That's basically it, just grocery shopping, just drinks, beverages, food, meat.
Okay. And then you broke up in September. Tell me about the $2,000 check.
That he wrote me on the 8th, and it was actually...
Can I see the check, please?
Yes. And I also have Here's all the shopping I've done.
Okay. So what happened after he wrote you the check for $2,000?
I found out he was lying to me 2 days later, and so I thought...
What do you mean you found out he was lying to you?
He told me he was at... The day he wrote that check out, he told me he was at work all day, had a full work story, like, oh, this happened and that happened. I did detail... He worked on this guy's car, and he said that that guy offered him whiskey, and he, drank with this man. And he worked at the man's house, the guy who's doing the work for. And so I believed him. It was a story, work story, And I found out later from receipts that I found, Beach Girls, didn't know what that was. And I found out that from the recording, the receipts, the ATM receipts, from 2 to 5, he was there at this Beach Girls place. And I called it at work. I didn't know what the heck Beach Girls was. And it turned out to be a bikini bar, a disgusting
Okay, so you found out he lied to you where he spent his afternoon. And what did you do?
So when I found that out, I broke up with him. And then I hadn't cashed the check yet because I was in no hurry because I trusted him.
Now I'll hear your end of the story, Mr. Allen.
Well, we met September. We started dating. It started getting good. I was involved in a divorce. I even brought my daughter to meet this girl.
Let's get to the credit cards. In September, did you tell her that you couldn't use your credit cards?
I told her I couldn't use my credit card.
Just a second. And did you tell her that if you used her credit cards, because you had to use somebody's credit cards, if you used her credit cards instead of using yours, you would reimburse her? Did you tell her that?
No, I did not.
So your intention was for her to use her credit cards for everything without reimbursing her?
No, I paid cash. I usually pay cash. A lot of my business, my customers would pay cash.
Pay cash for what?
For dinners, I would give her cash. For rent, I would write her a check.
Well, how many checks did you write her for rent?
Probably 3.
Can I see them?
I don't have those with me.
Well, who do you think has them?
Well, I just moved from here, from California to New Mexico. I have a lot of things in storage, and
but you have a bank, don't you?
Yes, well, that bank is closed. I closed out that account and opened a new one.
That doesn't make any difference. You can always get a copy of your checks by merely calling up the bank. And if it's your defense that what you did was you gave her checks, therefore you don't owe her this money, and you gave her checks for rent and checks for other things, then it seems to me you come here with something equipped with something other than your smile. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. You don't write somebody a bad check and then come with a baloney story, sir. Doesn't fly. We understand each other?
Yes, it does.
Out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If my customer wants to go golf, I take them to the golf course. If they want to go to the bikini bar, I'll take them to the bikini bar. It's money business.
It was not your normal classy bikini bar. I mean, it was just dirt, scum.
She had numerous friends that she would call and say, well, if I need help, I can go to see Rich Dude and he'll give me money and this and that. She's a gold digger.
I'm a woman who has a big heart, and I do not use men for money.
I wasn't prepared. I didn't come with receipts or check stubs. Yeah, I just wasn't prepared.
It's a big learning experience for me, and I hope to hell I never meet a guy like him ever again.
Marketing director Paula Sharia is suing her son, 20-year-old cook Joe Hapka, for the return of a car and car payments. Joe says his mom is trying to control his life.
Now, this is case number 42 on the calendar in the matter of Sharia versus Hapka. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mrs. Sharia, this is your son.
Yes.
And your claim is that you co-signed a loan for him for an automobile several years ago. He made payments regularly for a long time. Then he stopped making the payments.
Right.
And you have been forced to make, I believe, the last 8 payments on the car in order for the credit company not to cause a default on the loan. And since he's not making the payments, you want him to give you the car so that you can sell it and perhaps recoup some of the loss since he's not making the payments. Your son says this is not about the car because he has been making regular payments on the car for the last 8 months, even after you kicked him out of your house. He says that it's all about control, that since you can't control his life and you don't like his friends, you want to take his car away because that's the only thing he's got. That's your defense?
That's right.
Okay. How old are you, Joe?
20.
Do you have siblings?
I have a brother.
How old is your brother?
23.
Do you see him regularly?
Yeah.
Yes. Try yes.
Yes.
And what about your mom? Does he see your mom?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so they're close. So there's 2 boys. 2 boys. She's close to the oldest son. And according to what I read in her complaint and your answer, she was pretty good to you also.
Yes.
You needed a car several years ago. You were 18.
Yeah. Yes.
Where's your father?
My father, he lives somewhere in Cheektowaga in Newark. I don't really talk to him. I didn't really have a relationship with him.
Did you, look at me, Joe, did your mother always work when you were little?
Yes.
And who do you think supported you and your brother?
She did.
Okay. First of all, it goes without saying that you and your mom had an agreement that she would co-sign for this car, but you would make the monthly payments. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you did, according to your mom, make them for a very long time. When did he stop making payments on the car?
In September of 03.
And is that when you started to make the payments?
Yes.
Do you have proof that you made those payments?
Oh, yes.
May I see them, please? Now, before September of 2003, who would make the payments?
Joe would. Joe would give me the money or his paycheck, and he used to give me $40 a week to cover the payments. And then all of a sudden, he started saying, well, I want to just give them to you at the end of the month or the beginning of the month when it was due. Then it came to the point where he changed. He was going to school. That's why I co-signed for the loan. He was working 2 jobs. I have a big lot. He was mowing all the lawn. He was taking care of his chores, his room, and everything. Then he gets transferred over to a different pizza place, then meets up with some kids, and all of a sudden, he stayed out until 5 o'clock in the morning. He didn't tell me. He told me he doesn't have to tell me where he was. He quit school, stopped going little by little till he quit school.
What school was he going to?
He was going for electronics. I told him that if he went for electronics, that I would help him start a business in it. And he was doing everything right. All of a sudden, he was trashing his room. There was food, there was clothes, there was breaking the ceiling, the wall, you know. And I went downstairs. I opened up a book that was down there. I found some marijuana in there. He told me that it was his friends. He was just holding it for them. I used to give picnic parties, and he used to be the kind of kid, he was such a good kid that he used to hold a beer in front of him while everyone else was drinking, and by the end of the party, I would dump it out because he never really liked it.
Okay. September of 2003, is that when he stopped making all the payments?
Yes, he didn't give me a payment at all that month. And that is when I kicked him out. The reason I kicked him out is for tough love.
Joe? Look at me, Joe.
Okay.
So your mom, who took care of you and your brother, because I gather your father wasn't much of a participant, who wanted to help you secure your future, are you telling me that your mother is lying to me in court when she says that you stopped making payments to her on the car?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
She was right. I was giving her the payments, the $4 a week for the longest time, and once I didn't really quit school. I got thrown out of school. I missed too many days.
Why
like
did you
10
miss
days in 1 year.
Why did you miss so many days, Joe? Look at me. Don't look down.
I was working 2 jobs. It was just hard to get there sometimes.
So tell me about these new friends that you had that your mom didn't approve of.
See, I don't even know what that's really about, new
Tell me about the marijuana she found in the house.
That wasn't mine.
Whose was it? Look at me. Don't look down. Look at me. Whose was it?
It was a friend of mine's.
What were you doing with it?
He asked me to hold it so his mom wouldn't find it, and then she found it.
Well, that's not a friend. A friend doesn't ask you to do something wrong so that his mom wouldn't find it and place you in a situation where your mother found it. That's not a friend. And that's not somebody who's very smart that'll do that. Joe.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Says her son, Joe Hapka, needs to get his life together. She is suing for the return of a car and car payments.
Did you give her money last week?
No.
Did you give her money 4 weeks ago?
No.
So it's been some time since you gave her money. If you had to rent a car, you'd pay for it, right?
Well, I didn't trust her to give her the money because she's saying that, because I don't have my own book to send the payments in. She had her own book from the bank that she kept. That's why I gave her the money. She mailed in the payments. I kept doing that until I got a subpoena that I haven't been paying for.
So what you're telling me is you are prepared right now, if she gave you the book, listen to me, if she gave you the book, you're prepared to resume payments on the car. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can I see the book, please?
Sure.
Good.
Your Honor, he hasn't paid insurance since at least March. I got a paper stating that because he didn't pay insurance, his license is suspended. He's still driving, and this has been since March at least. He was in a car accident in March.
Is that right, Joe?
And they're suing him.
Since I got a letter saying that my license was suspended, I haven't drove it since then. It's been parked at my brother's house.
Well, so you're telling me that you are going to make these payments even though you can't drive the car?
Well, it's just until I ran out. I didn't have money for insurance at the time, so that
Why,
was
just
I
a
had
second.
an insurance lapse.
Just a second. Why didn't you have money for insurance?
I just wasn't making enough.
Don't you think you ought to get rid of this car?
No. I need the car. I really don't have anything. She kicked me out. I'm living basically on the street in my car, and she wants to take my car.
Well, you didn't sleep in your car 2 nights ago. So.
No, I didn't, but there's been times.
Sure, so listen, if you had behaved yourself, she wouldn't have kicked you out?
I'm 20 years old. I still have to live perfectly to her rules. I can't do anything. I can't see anybody.
Joe, listen to me. You do not, sir. You don't have to listen to your mother. You don't have to abide by her rules. Only if you live in her house. If you live in her house, she owns the air you breathe. And she doesn't have to wait until you decide to come home because she's going to be up at night wondering whether you're home safely or not. So you can't meander in at 5 o'clock in the morning. And you can't have friends over that she doesn't like. And you can't, listen to me,
right.
And you don't have a room. You don't have a room. She allows you to live in a room in her house. Evidently, whatever you were contributing to the household was not sufficient to balance the aggravation that your new lifestyle was posing for your mother. Shh. Step up. Tell me your name.
Richard Collado.
How do you know him?
Basically, I didn't graduate with his brother's brother. I didn't graduate, but I went to school with his brother, and his brother now lives with me.
You, I assume, believe that you have something to contribute to this case.
Yeah. I've seen him pay her twice.
When?
Once in September.
And once when?
And then little in January.
Tell me about the time that you saw him give his mother money in January 2004.
Basically, she came over, I think, to see his brother, Frank, who was living with me. And I was sleeping on the couch. It was a Saturday or Sunday. I remember being woken up by her complaining that he was about, I think, $50, $60 short. Something that I considered significant to disturb my sleep over, but I remember being woken up because he was short on a car payment. So he didn't have the total payment, but he did pay her something.
You remember that discussion?
Your Honor, I have never seen this kid before in my life. I don't know who he is. I don't know if he is a friend of my other sons. I have never met him.
You may not have been sleeping on the couch. Do you remember going over to your son sometime in January of 2004 and having a discussion about a short car payment?
No. What I have done is I have complained on the phone at his job, and I have pleaded with his brother to try and get him to pay me something. I have been, my stomach has been in a knot. I've been crying, upset. I mean, and I haven't said you're $50 short. He's short the whole entire payment.
Joe, according to you, it is your intention to pay this. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I do not believe that you have made your car payments, and one of the reasons I don't believe that you made your car payments is because you didn't even make your insurance payments on the car. So your mother made $1,200 worth of car payments for you over the last 8 months, and that you owe her. Now, I'm giving you back this book. This book is now your responsibility. I am telling you that it is now on the record that it is your intention to assume full responsibility for making those car payments this day forward. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
But since you have now stated to me that your intention is to make these payments yourself, if your mother has to make these payments for you, she has the right to pursue you civilly, garnish your wages, to recoup whatever money you don't pay on the car. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
Good. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200, which represents the amount of payments that she's made on the car. You no longer have any responsibility between the two of you. He's taking over his own car payments. Unfortunately, I cannot direct that he return the car to you, nor can I give you all the money that you owe on the car, because before you co-sign for somebody, you have to think twice about doing that. He has now assumed full responsibility for the car. It's all yours, babe. Take care of it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's driving without a license right now. I'm very concerned for his future. I wanted him to go to school. I wanted him to have a business.
She didn't want me to go anywhere if I left the house late at night. Where are you going? I mean, I'm 20 years old.
Maybe he looks at it as though I was controlling him, but when he gave me the payments I made for his car, at least I knew they were paid because that was our agreement when I co-signed.
I have my own car, I have my own life, my own job. You can't be telling me what to do. It's late. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I just hope that he wakes up and goes back to the way he used to be. He was very self-controlled. He had a goal, a mindset. He was a good kid.
And now the landscaper Dan Quine is suing his former employee, sales rep Penny Pupo, for the value of stolen property. Penny is countersuing for defamation of character.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 25 on the calendar in the matter of
Quine.
Quine versus Pupo. Parties have been sworn in.
Mr. Quine, according to your complaint, you knew the defendant, and at some point you hired her to do some lawn work for your business.
Yes, I did.
And then a dispute arose with regard to her compensation.
Yes.
So there was some bad blood. Subsequently, your home was burglarized.
Yes, it was.
When was your home burglarized?
That was August 9th.
And it is your belief that Miss Pupo was responsible for the burglary, either herself or herself in conjunction with others. And you want her to reimburse you in the amount of $4,000. The stuff that was taken from your home was in excess of that, but you want $4,000 for the value of the property that was taken and not recovered. Now, Ms. Pupo says that you still owe her some money from this weeding job that she did a while back, but she is really suing you for defamation because she says that you went around town telling people that she was a thief. That's your counterclaim.
Yes.
Let's not get into, please, the wages, because I'm really not interested in the wages from a year ago, whether it's $70 or $100 for weeding the property. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is the dispute over the wages. Now, when did that take place, Mr. Quine?
The dispute happened, I hired her to do the weeding on one house, okay? That job paid 6 hours to do the weeding and the shrub trimming.
Okay.
Okay?
So whatever she did work, and you gave her money. How much did you give her?
I gave her $70 after she worked 6 hours.
Just a minute. You gave her $70, and
Yes.
she said she wanted how much?
She wanted $210.
And that was somewhere around the end of July.
Yes.
Is that the last you heard from her?
Absolutely not. She called me 6 to 10 times a day, every single day.
Between the time the job was completed and...
Until the robbery in my house.
And what were these conversations like?
I want money. I want money. You promised me you'd pay me money. And I told her I paid you over and above what I owed you.
Tell me about the break-in to your home.
I was working late. And she had called so many times. All of a sudden, Saturday, the phone calls stopped. I get home, my house is robbed.
What do you find in the house?
Destroyed.
You have a
All
police
my
re-
electronics were gone.
Do you have a police report?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? Is this the detective that responded
This
to the
is
scene?
Detective Gunderson, who is with the Post Office.
You didn't listen to my
Oh,
question. I said, is this the detective who responded to the scene on the 9th of August?
Yes.
Okay, you can step up, sir. Detective, with what law enforcement authority are you affiliated, sir?
The Post Falls Police Department,
And how long have you been employed by them?
approximately 17 years.
Were you assigned this case?
I was. It was a subsequent investigation. Actually, an officer did respond. Took a
But not
report.
you?
But not me, no.
Okay,
I
so
handled the follow-up of the case after the fact. I didn't actually respond to the home.
Okay. Did anything in that subsequent investigation lead you to believe that the defendant was somehow involved in this burglary?
Yes, it did. I served a search warrant on the house where she was residing.
And what prompted you to serve a search warrant at that location?
It was another investigation, not this one. And once I got into the house,
It was another investigation for what?
I was involving fraud and drugs.
Now, do you remember on what date you executed this search warrant?
Yes, it was December 22nd.
And who was at that location?
Penny was there.
Penny, the defendant.
Yes, Penny, the defendant.
Did you
was
know
there.
her before?
I had spoke to her before, yes.
In what context?
I had questioned her about Mr. Quine's property previous to that, asked her if she would talk to us about the burglary of his property and things like that.
And when you got to the house and she was there,
Yes.
had you given her any notice that you were coming?
No.
And you found what?
A DeWalt drill, a Panasonic telephone, Pioneer faceplate to a stereo that were all items that I recalled were reported stolen by Mr. Quine.
And did it subsequently turn out that those items did in fact belong to him?
Yes, he identified them.
Did Ms. Pupo offer any explanation of how those items serendipitously appeared in a home where she was living?
No, she wouldn't talk about it.
Was she arrested?
Yes.
And what happened to that arrest?
She was charged with possessing the stolen property.
Right.
That's still a pending case.
It is?
Yes.
Is that case still pending?
No, they've dropped those charges, Your Honor.
Let me see.
This is all I'm being charged with now.
Well, I am not certain, madam, that the question of possession of stolen property has been resolved. So I am not going to ask you whether or not you stole his property. I have your answer, which is sworn to. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And your answer states, I was living with my parents and ran into an old, friend who asked me to watch his home while he went into prison. December 22nd, this home was raided by a task force and a few of Dan's belongings were recovered. That's what you say. I'm not asking you any questions, Ms. Pupo, because I don't necessarily believe that those issues will or will not be raised in your current indictment of possession of methamphetamines, which, according to this, you are still being charged with as a result of the raid of December 22nd.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Dan Quine says former employee Penny Pupo burglarized his home. Penny is denying the charge.
How many people reside in your town, sir?
Approximately 20,000.
So the statistical probability of the stolen items, considering the nexus between these two people, the relationship between these two people, the statistical probability of his stolen property ending up in a house where she was acting as a house sitter is really, really big.
Yes.
That's your case.
Yep.
He doesn't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you stole this property. I find that by the required quantum of proof in a civil proceeding, which is proof by a preponderance of the evidence, that either you or your friend who's in jail or somebody else who you importuned stole the property, and I'm awarding him $4,000 on his claim. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Sir, stand up. Tell me your name.
Mike Ollinger.
Take your hands out of your pockets, Mr. Ollinger. Are you prepared to testify that at some time subsequent to December 22nd or sometime after August 9th,
Yeah, it was in the fall.
you heard this gentleman,
Yep.
Mr. Quine, tell people that Miss Pupo was a thief?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
She is a thief.
Okay.
She is a thief. And
Okay.
the truth is an absolute defense to a charge of defamation. She or others acting on her behalf stole his property. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand.
Good.
what
Case
you're saying.
counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I stole everything out of my house, every electronic I had.
Wouldn't sleep with him. That's what the bottom line is.
There was no sexual nothing with that girl. All right? There was never has been, and she knows it.
Maybe you should come to work with a thong on. I'll pay your wages if you if you put out.
Her lies are just carrying on and on and on.
How many people do you have in your city? If someone was talking about you, I'm sure it would bother you too.
She's a drug addict, and she got caught.
Anybody that knows her knows that that isn't the case. So
I'll tell you what, Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene area is going to know all about her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Tarter versus Hughes. step forward, please.
Bus driver Catherine Tarter is suing her estranged son-in-law, 25-year-old salesman Donald Hughes, for the cost of a trailer. Donald says Catherine is angry about his pending divorce from her daughter.
Ms. Tarter, the defendant is your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law. And
Yes.
according to your complaint, he owes you some money for a trailer. Is that right?
Yes.
The defendant says he's paid you a substantial amount of money for the trailer, doesn't owe you any more. You have the motorhome that went with the trailer. He doesn't have it in his possession. It's not on his property. I assume this is your daughter?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
4 years, Your Honor.
You have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children?
I have a 1.5-year-old daughter, and then I had 2 sons that came with the marriage that are still dear to me.
And who does that child live with?
I have sole custody.
Is that after a hearing, after a trial?
Yes.
Does their mother have visitation with the children?
No, she does. She has 2 hours supervised visits a week.
Does she exercise the visitation?
Sometimes.
Prior to the divorce, did you have a reasonable relationship with Mr. and Mrs. Tarter?
Yes, I did.
Is that right?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 girls.
How many grandchildren do you have?
3.
How much money was this trailer?
It was $4,000.
Just for the trailer?
Just for the trailer, and the motorhome was $4,000, so they agreed upon $8,000.
And how much do you say it was, sir?
It was $4,000 altogether for both of them.
Is there a writing with regard to that?
We had a verbal agreement.
Is there a writing with regard to that, is my question.
No.
How much have you paid them for the trailer?
I paid them $1,950 for the trailer and the motorhome together.
But you only have the
I only have the trailer.
trailer. Did Mr. Hughes pay you $1,950?
No, ma'am.
How much did he pay you?
The motorhome broke down.
I'm not talking about the motorhome.
Okay, well,
He doesn't have the motorhome.
He paid us, I know, they returned it, so therefore all the payments that were paid individually towards the motorhome and the trailer were forfeited. And they were always...
Forfeited by whom?
By us. It was written down where when he paid us money, that $75 would go towards the motorhome and $75 would go towards the trailer. When one was given back in case they decided they couldn't afford it, or that it broke down, which the motorhome did, and they couldn't afford to fix it, they gave it back to us. So therefore, the motorhome payments, which were $425, was forfeited, and then $425 was credited towards the utility trailer.
All I'm asking you is that in writing someplace?
I typed up a legal contract because
Did
at
he
first
sign it?
He refused to sign it.
The answer is you do not. You do not have that in writing. Is that correct?
My daughter signed it, and
I don't
he
care
did
what your
not.
daughter signed, madam. I mean, I happen to think that you're missing a few screws, and I'm going to tell you why. You have a 1.5-year-old granddaughter. Your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law has sole custody, which suggests to me that if you want to maintain a relationship, and it seems to me you enjoyed a reasonable relationship with him before, if you want to enjoy a reasonable relationship with your granddaughter, you should keep him on your good side and not sue him, because it would appear to me that your daughter had to be a pretty deficient person in order to end up at the end of a custody dispute with 2 hours a week supervised visitation. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Why would a normal person who has 3 grandchildren risk the wrath of their custodial parent over nonsense? Over nonsense. He's paid you money. And how much child support is your daughter paying for her daughter?
She's not, and they're not divorced yet.
I don't care whether they're divorced or not. If she were the custodial parent and taking care of the child, and he came to me and said, in the course of a legal dispute, and I said to him, how much money are you paying for child support? And he said, well, we're not divorced yet, so I'm not paying for anything. I would wipe up the floor with him. I asked you a simple question. The simple question was, how much money was paid to you by him for either the trailer and or the motorhome?
$425 for the trailer and $425 for the motorhome.
Are you passive-aggressive? How much money was paid in total for both things? Don't give me $425 for each. How much money do you say was paid in total?
$850.
Okay. And you say 1950.
Yes, I do.
Can you prove that to me?
No, I can't. I have no receipts due to my house being taken from my wife, and then when I got my house back, I had no paperwork, no receipts, no pink slip.
They say $850. What makes you think it was 1950?
Because I paid on time, sometimes a couple days late, but every month was paid since October of 2002 until December of 2003.
So far, is that right?
No, Your Honor. I have a payment schedule here
Let me see.
showing. They were to pay $26 for insurance.
I'm not talking about insurance. I'm talking about how much money he actually paid to you. Okay. $1,450 is, by your calculations, what he paid to you. Not $850, $1,450, based upon this.
Your Honor, those payments were divided up between the motorhome and the trailer equally.
I just told you, he doesn't have the motorhome. You do.
No, we sold it since then.
Well, that's not my problem. That's not his problem.
Well, I asked him to return the motorhome when he refused the one payment and took it back.
Miss Tarter, you're not following me. If you think they owe you anything for the motorhome, get it from your daughter. Do I make myself clear? You are a very foolish lady. A very foolish lady. If I were in your position, I would not alienate the father, the custodial parent of my granddaughter. I would not alienate him. And for a very stupid reason, money. You did.
This has been going on for over a year.
No, that's not true. Because December of 2003, which is not over a year, he made a payment to you of $500. That's according to your own record.
But we sold it to him on March 03, is when the trailer and the motorhome was sold to them.
Did you hear what I said to you? It's not been going on for over a year. He made a payment to you of $500 in December of 2003.
Yes, he caught it.
When was the last time your daughter sent any money for the support of his child?
March. That's not an issue. They're not divorced
It's
yet.
an issue, madam, if you're using your brains. March of 2003. Was she employed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where was she employed?
At Child Time.
Until when?
October of 2003.
And what did she do with her money?
I thought she was paying bills, but she wasn't. She was using it on drugs.
Was she placed in a rehab?
I placed her in a rehab in January.
Did she stay?
She stayed for 60 days, Your Honor. And then she was supposed to go to a halfway house, and she ended up getting kicked out of there for doing it again, drinking.
Where are her other two children?
One lives with his father, and the other one lived with the grandparents.
Ms. Tarter, I find that the defendant has paid you $1,450 for a trailer. I find that your agreement was $4,000 for the trailer and the motorhome, not $8,000. Whatever deficiency there is, I suggest you get it from your daughter. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Step out.
I don't want my daughter to not see her mom or her grandparents or anything, but I see where the daughter gets it from.
He's refused me custody of my daughter. He's refused me parental rights to my daughter, visitation to my daughter, and everything else. I've done everything that the courts have asked me to do.
She kidnapped my daughter from when we were getting Christmas pictures. She ran me over with a car.
I was having meth at the time.
Her drug use, it just kind of just tore the whole family apart.
I told him to bring the trailer back or I would report it stolen. He says, well, you might as well report it stolen and you can kiss your granddaughter goodbye because you're never going to see her again.
Hopefully it'll work out. I really do, because it's not about me, her, or the grandparents. It's actually about the children.
All parties in the matter of Aon Orozco versus Roseberry. Step forward, please.
Retail worker Rosalina Aon Orozco is suing her ex-boyfriend, Assistant Construction Superintendent Louis Roseberry, for slashing the top of her convertible. Louis denies the charge and claims it was probably one of her other boyfriends.
Mr. Roscoe, it is your claim that the defendant, who used to be your boyfriend, slashed the top of your convertible because he was angry with you, I guess, for breaking up with him. And that was when?
August 25th of 02.
Mr. Roseberry says that he didn't cause that damage. Where have you been for the last year and a half?
Back and forth. We broke up, and then we'd get back together, and we'd break up again.
So is what you're telling me, after he slashed your car in August of 2002, you got back together again?
About a month.
About a month later?
A month later.
And how long were you together?
For like 13 months.
And while you were together for the 13 months, what did you do with your convertible top?
Well, he damaged my car August the 25th, so I fixed it a month later, and that's when I got with him.
And you were together after that for 13 months?
Oh, no. For 3 months.
You were back together for 3 months?
After that.
Did he live with you? Or
Oh,
did
no.
you live with him?
No.
Well, when you mean you were back...
lived with me.
What do you mean you were back together again?
We went back together because he promised and that he'd fix my top, that he was sorry, that he had some kind of issues, that he was going to the anger management classes, and that he was going to get help.
Fine. So that didn't work out after 3 months, and you broke up again.
In December, and that was it. I didn't go back. But I was threatened. I mean, he threatened me. If I didn't go back with him, he would...
fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry.
She's on a fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry, are you under the influence of any drug or alcohol at this moment? I'm
No.
asking you a question.
No, I'm not.
Then if you're not, try to maintain a certain amount of decorum because you're in a court. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. You can drink later. What I don't understand, Mr. Roscoe, is you had a fight with him. According to you, he damaged your car. You went back together. You went out with him. You slept with him. You shared a bed with him. You shared a life with him for 3 months, 4 months, however long it was. According to you, it was August that he did this. A month later, you went back with him. September, October, November, December. So you're back together for 4 months. So what are you bothering the courts for now?
Well, I want him to pay me because he did the damage to my car, and I had to ask my sister for the money to pay for the car. I mean,
how long ago?
When I got it fixed.
When was that?
September.
Show me.
You know, I'm so sorry, Your Honor. It was of 03.
You gotta get your time straight, Mr. Roscoe.
Hang on 1 second. It was August 24th of 03 when he damaged the car, and then a month later is when I went back with him. I mean, I just want him to pay the damage of...
Just a second.
I want him to pay because I seen him do it, and he threatened me. And I broke up with him. We were fighting a night before this incident. We were fighting, arguing from like 7 p.m. to 1 in the morning. I just didn't take his calls anymore. He called me the next day and he said, okay, fine. If you don't want to be friends, fine. Just call me, let me know. So I called him and I said, you know what? I don't think that this is healthy. We need to not be together. I don't want to have anything to do with you, not even friends.
Perfect. Then you should have sued him the next day. Did you report him to the police?
The day that he did the damages? Yes. There
Let
was
me
a
see the police report. I'd like to see it, please.
I called the police office.
I'd like to see the police report. Don't speak. Just show me the police report.
Your Honor, can I share something, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, this girl is on a good one. She's hallucinating.
Listen to me.
Here hallucinating.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Just stick to her convertible top.
Okay, well, the convertible top I didn't slash. I didn't have nothing to do with that. As far as I know, she had 6 other boyfriends or something that are probably mad at her for the same reason I was mad at her.
Why were you mad at her, sir?
Because she's lying. She just constantly lies.
So what'd you get back together with her for 4 months? Look at me. Look at me. Tell me why.
Because I like to play around.
So you don't care if she's of good moral character or bad moral character or wrapped too tight or whatever?
She has no morals.
And that didn't bother you?
Well, it did. I have a daughter, you know, that I'm raising, and she...
You're raising a child?
Oh, yeah. I am.
Just a minute. You're raising
She's
a child?
an angel. She's a perfect angel.
You're raising a child yourself?
No, I have help.
Who's help? Who's helping?
The mothers.
What?
The mothers.
They're mothers? You mean you
No.
have one child who have several mothers?
No, my daughter's mom, and her family, and my family.
Do you live with your daughter's mother?
No,
Who does your daughter live with?
we're 50-50 with our child.
Oh,
So she's half with me and half with mom. We don't fight or nothing.
That's
That's a
wonderful.
different.
That's wonderful. Mr. Roscoe, get to the convertible top, please, and get there fast. You had a fight. You had a fight the day before.
The next day, he called me and said, fine, if you don't want to be friends, fine, just call me and let me know. So I called him and I said, you know what, this relationship's not healthy. You need help, and no, I don't want to be friends. I want to have nothing to do with you. So I don't remember if he hung up on me or he said, I'm on my way. Either way, I called him numerous of times, but he wouldn't answer the phone.
What'd you call him for?
To tell him not to come to my house.
To stalk me.
Just a second. You called him, you told him you didn't want to have anything to do with him.
Well, he
And
sounded sincere.
And he hung up the phone. You already told him not to have anything to do with him. And then, according to you, you kept calling him? I don't understand why you kept calling him.
Because he hung up the phone, and I knew he would show up at the house because he's done it before. He's tried to break in the house.
Love songs on my pager?
He's tried to break in the house before.
I'm not interested in that.
Well, I
don't understand why, if you told me you didn't want to hear from him anymore, you kept calling him on his cell phone.
Because I said, I don't want us to be friends. Nothing. Zero. And then he hung up on me, so I called him because I suspected he was going to show up at the house, and that's exactly what he did. He showed up at the house, he knocked at my window, and he said, come outside, let's talk. And I said, no, I'm not going outside. Please leave. My sister is here. So he kept knocking on the window, and then I said, leave or I'm going to call the cops. And that's when he got really mad, and he said, come outside, I'm going to you up. Excuse me. And I said, no, I'm not. And so I picked up the phone and to call the cops, and I said, you know what, I'm calling the cops, and I'm on the phone with them, and he said, come outside because I'm going to you up and I'm going to your car. So I was on the phone with the police, and I said, my ex-boyfriend's here, and he is outside. He wants to come in the house. Then I looked out the window. No, I looked out the window.
Boyfriends or something.
No.
Blame this one on me.
No, because Your Honor.
What don't you understand? Am I looking at you?
I'm trying to speak mine.
No. I didn't ask you anything.
All right.
I looked out the window, and I seen him. He walked to my car. It was parked in the driveway, and he started slashing my top.
Now I want to go forward again.
This guy has issues.
Okay. Now I want to go forward to when you got back together again.
It's gonna be crying.
Why? Is this another threat? Is this another threat?
Making up stories. All
No,
kinds.
don't
This girl's a
threaten me.
storyteller.
No.
Like, for real. Damn. Storytelling.
Louis, you're lying, so don't come
You
up
lie
here and
more
lie.
than-
Your case,
Girl
Mr.
lies like a
Roscoe,
rug.
is dismissed. Because when I tell you that you have the absolute right to come into a court, even if you come in late, to file a case, even after you've condoned, as far as I'm concerned, by living with him, staying with him, sleeping with him, touching him, feeling him, letting him touch you for 4 months, you've condoned this slashing incident after it happens, but you still have the right to come in and tell a story. You do not have the right, as far as I'm concerned, to disrespect this court by treating this court as if it was a talk show. Do I make myself clear? Good. Your case is dismissed. Out.
Parties are excused. May step out.
He promised me that he was going to pay me, and he was crying and pleading that he was going to pay me to not take him to court. And I believed him.
This girl's on something. She's on, I don't know.
I got threatened. He said that he was, he was threatening me.
I think she's wacko.
If I didn't go back with him, then he's going to put me 6 feet under. That's exactly what he said.
She never told me what she was out doing. She would just be like, I'm out and about, come by at 3 in the morning. That's, it makes you wonder.
He's making things up. He has issues. This guy has issues.
I never knew her real age. She never told me in a year and something months.
I'm done. I'm putting this behind.
22-year-old business owner William Joe Schwartfeger is suing his ex-girlfriend's father, truck driver Warren Day, for a false restraining order. Warren says he was trying to keep William away from his 16-year-old daughter, and he is countersuing for his legal fees.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now this is case number 70 on the calendar in the matter of Schwartfeger versus Day. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Schwartfeger?
That's correct.
How old are you, sir?
22.
Bert, I want you to pay careful attention. We're going to go over this scorecard so that you know who the players are in this case.
Gotcha.
Because I have a feeling it's going to be interesting. Who is this young lady?
That is my girlfriend, Sarah Buckley.
What does she have to do with this case?
She is a witness to the harassment, the vandalism to my vehicle, and she's also known the defendant and his daughters for about 5 to 6 years.
How long have you been his girlfriend?
Since November.
So a short-term girlfriend.
Yes.
Mr. Day, these are your 2 daughters.
That's correct.
Your name is?
Samantha.
How old are you, Samantha?
17.
And your name?
Kathleen.
How old are you, Kathleen?
22.
Kathleen, why don't you stand up next to your dad for a minute? Because we're going to get this whole scenario down here. Kathleen, you used to be his girlfriend, is that right?
Yes.
For how long were you his girlfriend?
Almost 4 years.
You have children with him?
2.
How old are your 2 children?
One just turned 3 and one's about 18 months.
Did you live together for a period of time?
Yeah.
For how long?
About 3 of those 4 years.
And how old were you when you started to live with him?
18.
Now you can sit down.
Thank you.
I may come back to you, but right now you can sit. This is what your lawsuit's about, William. According to you, you were being a good Samaritan. And at some point, you took in Mr. Day's younger daughter.
That's correct.
into your home because you say she was having some trouble with her dad.
Both parents, Your Honor.
Both parents.
Yes.
Now, at the time that you took her into your house, were you still living with Kathleen?
No, I wasn't.
So Kathleen wasn't living with you anymore with your two children. She had left you. You had parted ways.
Right.
But Samantha came to live with you, and at that time Samantha was 16.
That's right.
Mr. Day didn't like that.
Not at all, ma'am.
You didn't like what happened with your first daughter,
That's correct.
and you for sure didn't like what happened with your second daughter.
That's very correct.
So what did you do, Mr. Day,
Well, Mr. Shortfigure hit Samantha in the mouth.
after she was living with him?
Yes.
Okay, let's stop there for a moment. What date did your daughter leave your home?
April 13th.
Of 2003?
Yes. It wasn't my home she was with. She was still with her mother at that time.
You and her mother are separated?
Yes.
In any event, this is what your lawsuit is about, William. The lawsuit says that Mr. Day filed false charges against you for child endangerment, protective orders, causing you to have to hire an attorney, legal fees, and everything that he said about you was false, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $1,954.
That's correct.
Mr. Day, just for good measure, says, well, he wants some money too because you caused him to lose work and attorney's fees because he had to hire an attorney in order to get certain orders reinstated. He wants some money. I think most of what he wants is satisfaction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, William, tell me about when Kathleen left your house with your two children.
We were living together until December of 2002, I believe.
And how old were your children at that point?
The one was 3 months, and the other one was a little over 2 years old. Or, I'm sorry, she had not turned 2 yet.
And why did she leave?
We were having problems in our relationship. We've had an on and off relationship for the last 4.5 to 5 years, so...
It was during the odd periods that you had these children?
Yeah,
Was it an amicable breakup?
pretty much.
And you continue to see the children?
Yes, on a regular basis.
And you continue to support the children?
That's right. I pay child support every week.
For both children?
That's right.
Okay. And where did Kathleen go when she left?
Actually, she stayed in the apartment that we shared.
And you left?
That's right.
So far, is that correct, Kathleen?
No.
Well, why don't you come up here and tell me what happened? Because this is all very important as far as Mr. Day's state of mind when he filed his complaints. When did you and William separate?
December of 2002.
Under what circumstances?
He was sleeping with my sister.
And how did you find that out, Kathleen?
I found notes.
Did you keep the notes?
My mom has them right now.
You get along with your mother?
Yeah.
Should have brought the notes to court.
I know, she won't give them to me. She said it's an embarrassment to our children.
What did the notes say? First
They
of all,
were-
who wrote the notes?
He did.
Remember what they said?
It said Samantha down the side. It said sexy, amazing, mind-blowing, awesome, naughty, terrific, hot, and a dream come true.
Did you confront William with the note?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said they wrote it as a joke, together.
And when was that?
About 2 weeks before Christmas, December 2002.
You remember that conversation, William?
Yes, I do.
So you told Kathleen, the mother of your two children, that the note that you wrote that talked about sexy, naughty, etc., with regard to her sister, her 16-year-old sister, were just joking around.
Well, I write a lot of poetry. And that
Joking around.
Yeah.
That's what you told her.
Yeah, I said we wrote it together. Yes.
Oh. Shh, please. You left.
I left for the day, but I stayed in the apartment. I asked him to leave.
And did he leave?
He left after a few days.
And that was in December.
That's correct.
When did Samantha come to live with you, sir?
In April of 2003.
And where were you living at the time?
I just got an apartment, and I had an extra bedroom, so I figured, you know.
How did Samantha know that you had an extra bedroom?
Well, we stayed in contact. Kathleen and I weren't talking at the time, so I used Samantha as a mediator to, you know, see my children and to make sure that they were doing okay.
You said you saw your children regularly, so what do you mean you needed a mediator?
Well, at first, the visitation wasn't every weekend like it is now. Like I said, Kathleen and I weren't on speaking terms at that time.
You weren't on speaking terms because she believed that you were having intimate relations with a 16-year-old sister. That a
Yeah.
fair statement?
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
Now tell me what Mr. Day did with regard to his 16-year-old daughter moving in with you.
Nothing at first. Samantha and Mr. Day weren't on speaking terms when it first happened.
She was living with her mother.
That's right, and she was having problems with her mother. She was, living in and out of her friend's house, running away from her house, not going to school, stuff like that.
Between December and April, did you see Samantha?
We met up a couple times.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
How many times would you estimate you saw Samantha?
About once a week, maybe.
Could it have been twice a week?
It wasn't like everyday basis that she was over at where I was at, but...
I didn't say every day,
Well,
William. You said once a week. And what I said to you is, could it have been twice a week?
It might have been a couple weeks that she came over more than once, yes.
And when she would come over, would she stay for an hour or two?
She'd stay for a couple hours.
And what would you do when she came over?
We'd hang out with the kids, talk about when the next time I get to see them, where we were going to meet to get the kids and everything else. So,
When did Mr. Day file the first of his protective orders?
in July.
You have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This paper is also the ruling after the
Just
case.
a second. So he filed a protective order indicating that in July you hit Samantha in the mouth.
That's right.
July 2003, Samantha. Were you living with William at the time?
Yes.
Did he hit you in the mouth?
Yes.
Under what circumstances?
I came home and him and his friends had been drinking and we got into an argument. At that time, we went into the bedroom. He took me into the bedroom. His friends stayed in the other room and one thing led to another. He actually picked me up, threw me into the table, and that's how I busted my lip open.
So he didn't hit you in the mouth. He picked you up and threw you into a table, which caused you to hurt your lip. And what did you do in July when he did that to you?
Well, we kept fighting. He actually left. I called my friends to come get me because he took my keys and threw them in the dumpster. And he came back and he was being very rude to my friends, and then I left. And then 2 days later, I think, is when they actually filed the protection order.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living with Joe, but I was staying with my friend Stephanie after we got in an argument.
So you were living with him?
Yes.
What kind of an apartment did he have?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Who else lived there?
Just me and him.
Did you have your own bedroom?
No.
Did you share the bedroom with him?
Yes.
For how long?
Ever since we moved in. We actually got the apartment together. He didn't have it when we're together.
You went to court in August of 2003. Do you remember going to court in August of 2003? Did the judge ask you any questions?
Yes.
Why did you lie to the judge?
Because I thought that I was in love and I was scared. He told me what to say and I said what he said to say.
Had you gone back to him at the time?
We were on a restraining order so we couldn't see each other, but yeah, we were still together.
Were you speaking to him?
Not during the protection order.
Did you tell your father that you were going to not tell the truth when the judge asked you questions?
Yes.
What did he say?
Not much. He told me I better tell the truth.
Is that right, sir?
That is correct, ma'am.
When your 16-year-old daughter got to court, you didn't tell the truth. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this, William, is what you're really suing over, this case that was dismissed.
Yeah, that's part of the lawsuit, yes.
Tell me what the other part is.
In February, he filed another protective order against me. Samantha had moved out in late October, and I didn't understand why he was...
So she came back to you after this original protective order, and she moved out again in late October?
That's right. She moved back into my house probably about a month after the case, and then she quit her job, stopped going to school, and those were, I told her if she was going to live with me, she had to keep her job, go to school, and then later on my car got vandalized.
Who do you think vandalized your car, sir?
Samantha. We do have audio tapes that were gone over by the county attorney.
Don't tell me what audio tapes were gone over by anybody else, sir. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Do you have any witness to Samantha vandalizing your car?
Samantha's older sister, Kathleen, she was the one that actually told me that it was Samantha that vandalized
that right?
my car.
No.
What did you say to him?
I said it wasn't my brother, and it wasn't my sister.
Well, I don't know
there's
what
a
you
lot of
said.
people that hate you, so...
I can think of 3 right there. Maybe 4. William, I'm going to tell you a word that you probably don't know. Interestingly enough, Officer Byrd knows this word, because when I say the word, he's going to understand, as will a lot of other people, because I'm going to explain the word to you. The word, William, is chutzpah. Do you know what chutzpah means, Bird?
Sure.
Chutzpah means nerve. You got a lot of nerve to put on a suit and tie, bring your girlfriend into a court to sue this man after you made 2 babies with one of his children irresponsibly. Now, you're only partially responsible for that, but you're half responsible for that. And then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister, and she leaves you. Or you leave. She tells you to leave. And then you invite her 16-year-old sister to move into your house, the 2 sisters, you know, like you live in Utah. And then you have the chutzpah to sue him as a parent for getting angry with you because his daughter tells him, not only am I sleeping with him, but he picked me up, he got angry when he was drinking, threw me against the table, and split my lip. You have a daughter, sir?
Yes, I got 2 daughters.
All right. You have 2 daughters?
3.
3?
Yes.
Who's the 3rd?
My oldest daughter, she's 7, but she's not by the day.
And how old are you, 22?
That's right.
You better get a lock for it.
That's already been fixed, Alan.
William, I don't want to look at you for another second. Your case is dismissed. Mr. Day, have you gotten the satisfaction that you wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need a counterclaim, do you?
No, I don't really know.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been hard. It's been hard for me not to do something else besides go to court on it. It really has.
I was just trying to get the attorney bills that Mr. Day has racked up on my behalf, cleared up.
This man has been like a dingleberry on my butt.
It didn't destroy any credibility. It's another day.
He doesn't think about other people's feelings, how he hurt me, how he hurt her, and how he's probably going to hurt Sarah, too.
She was like a little sister to me the whole time.
You could talk the panties off a nun.
The girl that's with him right now, Sarah Buckley,
Is my best friend.
and used to live in my house as my 3rd, adopted daughter.
So he's on the 3rd one now.
Yeah.
We're actually a lot closer than we were, and we just really hate him now.
Everybody makes mistakes. This is her freebie. If she does it again, then it's done.
And now the next case. Account manager Fred Grande is suing the mother of his child, 25-year-old waitress Mariam Wahab, for the return of an engagement ring. Mariam claims the ring was a birthday gift.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 60 on the calendar, the matter of Grande versus Wahab. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Mr. Grande, you want the engagement ring back, and the defendant says it was not an engagement ring but a birthday Christmas present, right?
That's correct.
Can I see the receipt for the ring? Okay, well, the first thing I have to ascertain is, Mr. Grande, you are suing her for $699 for the return of the value of the ring, and you only paid $359.11 for it. What's the other money for?
Okay, originally the $699 is the retail value of the ring. I did have it appraised, and the total that I did pay on it is $385, and that's the total amount that I did pay into it. So that's what I would be seeking is $385.
But didn't you think I'd figure that out?
Yeah.
I mean, when you filed your lawsuit, didn't you think that I'd figure out that you were seeking twice as much as you paid for the ring?
Well,
you are the only human being in history who buys a ring from a jewelry store and it doubles in value in a relatively short period of time. All right, so you're not seeking $700 for the ring, you're seeking $359.11.
That's correct.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with shooting big, though.
Oh, I shoot big too, sir. Okay, so now we know what your lawsuit is about, Mr. Grande. You and the defendant have a child together, is that right?
We do.
And how old is that child?
She's 16 months.
And you share custody of her?
We do.
I have full custody.
Don't speak out. I'm really good at getting information. It's really my strong suit. I'm really good at getting quality, accurate information. But I like to get it from the person who I choose to get it from. Okay? Do you have joint custody, sir?
She has sole custody. I have joint legal custody, though.
Okay, so she has sole physical custody. She takes care of all the problems, and you can say, I have joint legal custody.
Somewhat.
See, I told you I shoot big. So you had a long-term relationship with her?
Yeah, over 2 years.
Oh, lifetime. And in the 2 years that you were together, you managed to have a relationship, have a baby, and separate. Is that right?
Correct.
And since I assume, Mr. Grande, that you have been to court, if you have joint legal custody, despite the fact that she has physical custody, I also assume that there is a support order.
There is.
And how much is the support order?
It's for $337 a month, but right now I'm currently paying $500.
Well, $337 a month is the support order, and if you're paying $500, there must have been some arrears.
Correct.
Which means that you weren't paying for a while.
Not necessarily, no.
Well, that's what arrears are, sir. Arrears are fixed by the court.
Correct.
If, for a period of time, you are not paying support. Don't you think that they put me here for a reason?
I understand.
You think that I was a go-go dancer before I got this job? I was not. I was a judge in the family court. Arrears are when you don't pay support. They fix on and they tack on an additional amount for that period of time that you didn't pay support.
It's not from lack of payment, though. We originally went to court in June, and she felt that the $250 wasn't sufficient, so then we didn't get to court and finalize until September. So
Just a minute. She felt what $250 wasn't sufficient?
Originally, the support order was set at $250, and she didn't feel that.
Okay. So originally, a court set child support at $250, or you were paying it voluntarily?
It hadn't been set in any decree yet.
Fine. So you were giving her voluntarily, according to you, $250 a month.
She didn't get any money till September, till the final decree was established.
Now, the final decree was what? $337?
Correct.
Well, you just said to me they felt that $250 wasn't enough.
It was for back payments, $337 times all the months since the original court date of June. So that's why from the start, I was $1,400.
What was this $250 that you were talking to me about, Mr. Grande?
That's what our lawyers had come to agreement, and we thought that's what the amount should have been set at.
Mr. Grande, is what you're telling me from the time you and the defendant separated until the time the court fixed an order of support, you were not paying any money?
No.
So, what I said to you was, your support order is $337, and because you were dingling around, they added another amount to cover the arrears for when you weren't paying any money. And you ought to respond, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how long was it that you were separated, Mr. Grande, before the court set an order of support?
She moved out in February 2002.
Yes, and when did the court make a support order?
September of 2002.
February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So for 8 months, you didn't pay any support. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Now let's get to this $350 engagement ring, the Hope Diamond that you bought for her. Can I see the ring? That looks like a pretty ring. Doesn't look like any sort of an engagement ring I ever saw. Engagement ring usually has one nice stone right there in the middle that just sits there and smiles at you. Give this back to her until I decide what to do with it, would you? When's your birthday?
December 18th.
And is it on December 18th every year?
Yes.
It doesn't change dates. You know, 2002 it's December 18th, 2003 it's December 18th, right?
Right.
So, Mr. Grande, you're going to explain to me, sir, how serendipitously, that means just by accident, sort of, you purchased this ring at the jewelry store on December 18th, 2002.
Coincidence.
Coincidence.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. He says his ex-fiancée, Mariam Wahab, owes for the return of an engagement ring. Mariam says the ring was a birthday gift.
Tell me what happened when you gave her the ring in December 18th, 2002, or whenever you gave it to her.
It's not when I gave it to her, but I'll explain
When did you
to
give it to her?
I took myself, her mother, her brother, and his wife, and my mother out to dinner, and that's when I presented the ring to her.
Explain to me how you did that.
Well, we sat down before we got the food. I opened the case, showed it to her, and I said, "Will you marry me?" I didn't say happy birthday. I didn't say Merry Christmas. I said, "Will you marry me?"
And what did she say?
Well, of course, she said yes.
I would have thought twice.
If she said no, she wouldn't be wearing the ring, right?
Okay. Okay, good. So that's how it happened.
Correct.
And that was on what date, sir?
I would say it was about December 20th.
And you remember that distinctly?
I know it was after her birthday.
No, do you remember distinctly exactly how it happened? Because
Yes, I do.
we're not talking so long ago, right?
No.
So you remember that day and that dinner clearly.
I do.
And you would remember something that happened the day before also clearly. Is that right?
I would.
Your daughter wasn't born yet, is that right?
She wasn't.
But the defendant was pregnant at the time.
She was due very soon.
So she was very pregnant at the time. So it was an exciting time, and you would remember that time. What did you get for the defendant for her birthday, December of 2002, 2 days before you gave her the ring?
I believe it was some clothes.
No, you're not, you believe. I'm going to give you a minute to just sit back and think about it. Her birthday, your girlfriend, who's very pregnant, going to have your baby, who you love desperately, who you had bought a ring for 2 days before you gave it to her, was celebrating a birthday on December 18th. And birthdays are really important when you have a new relationship, so you wouldn't think of not getting her something for her birthday.
Correct.
So now I want you to think really hard and tell me what you bought her for her birthday. Think hard. Why don't you put on your thinking cap?
I believe it was a sweater and an outfit.
Was it a maternity sweater or a regular sweater?
It was a regular sweater.
Was it a maternity outfit or a regular outfit?
It was regular.
Was it a daytime outfit or an evening outfit?
Daytime. Well, I know what you're getting at. I do.
You do?
I do.
Then if you do, then why don't you just, instead of lying...
Well, because if...
No, listen to me. Instead of lying and making things up as you're going, why don't you just say, quite frankly, Judge, I don't remember. I'm sure I bought her a birthday present on her birthday, but quite frankly, I don't remember, instead of standing there like a jerk and making things up.
I don't think that's the case.
What do you mean you don't think that's the case? You don't think that I know that you just stood there and made up the fact that you got her a sweater and an outfit for her birthday?
I was planning on giving her the ring around her birthday and before Christmas. I mean, it's not like I was making the best money, at that time, so...
Mr. Grande, don't you understand what I just said to you? I said that you lied when you just told me that you got her a sweater and an outfit for her birthday, when in fact... You just told me now that you got her nothing else because you were planning on giving her a ring around her birthday. And I said to you, don't stand there and make things up as you're going along because it makes you look ridiculous. Now, do you want to explain to me how you got this ring?
Yes, it was on my birthday, December 18th. We went to dinner that night on my birthday. It was my mom, my brother, his girlfriend. And he didn't give it to me where anybody else could see it. He handed me the box under the table and didn't say anything. He never asked me to marry him, nothing like that. And I took it and then I brought it above the table and I showed everybody else, and that was it. Okay. And he gave me the receipt to go get it sized.
That's how you have the receipt?
Right.
Okay. When did you separate?
February 18th. It was 2003. It was after I had the baby. She was 2 months old.
And when for the first time did he ask you for the ring back?
He sent me an email probably around December. I'm not sure of the month, but it was
December
a while ago.
Can I see? Is that the email? May I have it, please?
And he asked me for it back. Oh.
It's kind of colorful language, so
Oh, I can take it. Now, when did you separate, Mr. Grande?
She moved out in February.
February of what year?
2003.
And this was sent on February 2004, a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And this was after you had been in court, is that right? Because I see you've got lawyers here.
Mm-hmm.
So after you were taken to court and you were given a support order in the amount of $500 a month, which includes arrears, we got this. Is that right?
Correct.
Too bad.
They didn't address
I have
that.
to make
There's
a determination. I'm speaking. I have to make a determination whether the ring that you gave her a year and a half ago was a birthday present or an engagement present. So let's try to look at certain objective data. A, we had a relationship that had come to a point when there was going to be a permanent commitment because you had a child together. B, I find that it was not serendipitous that this ring was purchased on the day of her birthday, and I believe her and not you that it was the 18th of December when the family went out to dinner to celebrate her birthday, and not you taking the family out to dinner to present her with an engagement ring. When it was presented to her, it was just given to her exactly as she said as it was given to her, which is
under the table.
Under the table. Here it is. She took it out and showed it to everybody.
We hadn't.
I find that,
No.
furthermore, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. It doesn't look like an engagement ring. It looks like a ring.
Judge, we have an
I'm
engagement
speaking.
party. This is important, though.
I'm speaking.
Do I have a chance when you're done?
No. You had your chance, she had her chance. Now I'm ruling. Now you have
There
to be
was an
quiet.
engagement party
Now
in
you have to
Virginia.
be quiet. Do you understand? Now you have to be quiet. Most importantly, sir, how you have the audacity to sue her for a $300 ring when for 6 months you paid not 1 penny in child support, not a penny, is something, quite frankly, Mr. Grande, that I don't understand. And your demand for the engagement ring back, engagement ring is in quotes, made a year after you separated at a time when she was taking you to court for support is outrageous. And before I would come to court, when I had committed an outrageous act to seek the return of a $300 ring, I would take a good stiff drink and think twice about where my morals are. Your case is dismissed, Mr. Grande. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He thought I started dating other people, and that's when he got mad and asked for his ring back, and I said no.
We had an engagement party in Virginia, which didn't get brought up. Was that a fake engagement party? I doubt it.
Right, we just tried to make it look good, like I was getting married before I was pregnant, before I told him I was pregnant.
I take care of my child. I pay support. I've never missed a payment.
As far as the child support, for example, he tries to get over on everybody as much as he can, and like this. But in the end, he always ends up looking stupid.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn, lại là mình đây. Các bạn ơi, chúng mình tiếp tục tìm hiểu 10 vạn câu hỏi vì sao với những bí ẩn ở trên bầu trời này nhé. Câu hỏi hôm nay của chúng mình có nội dung như sau. Cát vàng ở trong sa mạc sinh ra từ đâu? Các bạn thấy không? Hình ảnh những cái cồn cát vàng ở trên sa mạc là điều dễ nhìn thấy, đúng không? Hầu hết toàn bộ bề mặt của các hoang mạc, các sa mạc ý, đều là phủ bởi những cồn cát vàng. Vậy mình và các bạn cùng tìm hiểu xem là những cái cồn cát đấy ai là người mang đến nhỉ? Ủn ỉ đang xây nhà nên cần rất nhiều cát để xây. Cậu mới ước giá mà sa mạc ở ngay đây thì tốt biết bao. Trên sa mạc có đầy cát vàng và mình khỏi phải đi xa để lấy cát vất vả như thế này. Nhưng mà cát vàng ở trong sa mạc sinh ra từ đâu nhỉ? Nguyên nhân là do sa mạc vốn khô cằn, rồi luôn có gió lớn. Nhiệt độ giữa ngày và đêm chênh nhau đến vài chục độ C. Xưa kia trên sa mạc có rất nhiều phiến đá lớn. Những phiến đá này ban ngày gặp nhiệt độ cao sẽ nở ra, còn ban đêm lại chịu nhiệt độ thấp thì sẽ bị co lại. Cứ như vậy, lâu ngày các phiến đá bị bong ra thành từng mảng và vỡ vụn. Rồi những mảnh vỡ nhỏ bé đó lại bị gió lớn bao mòn, cuốn đi thành những hạt cát nhỏ xíu, óng vàng, rải khắp mọi nơi. Sa mạc, biển cát vàng mênh mông đã được hình thành như vậy đó. Như vậy là gì? Cát ở trên sa mạc được hình thành là do các lớp đất đá trải qua quá trình phong hóa vật lý, tức là sự giãn nở về nhiệt ý. Ban ngày thì nhiệt độ ở sa mạc lên rất là cao, đất đá hấp thụ nhiệt lượng và nở ra. Nhưng mà ban đêm sự chênh lệch nhiệt độ rất là lớn, đến vài chục độ C cơ, thì ban đêm nhiệt độ lại hạ xuống rất là nhanh, làm cho đất đá đấy bị co lại, và cứ như vậy nó bị vỡ vụn dần ra, cộng thêm với gió lớn nữa, bào mòn và tạo nên những cái cồn cát bao phủ lên toàn bộ hoang mạc đấy các bạn ạ. Sa mạc lớn nhất thế giới là ở đâu nhỉ? Cậu có biết diện tích của nó là bao nhiêu không? Sa mạc lớn nhất chính là sa mạc Sahara ở châu Phi. Nó là sa mạc lớn nhất thế giới, có diện tích 8.000 km vuông, còn lớn hơn cả diện tích của lục địa Australia cơ. Hiện nay, hiện tượng sa mạc hóa đất đai ngày càng nghiêm trọng và cần sự nỗ lực chung của tất cả mọi người trên thế giới. Trồng thêm nhiều cây cối để sa mạc nhanh chóng biến thành ốc đảo xanh là một trong những cách làm giảm hiện tượng đất đai bị sa mạc hóa rất là hiệu quả đấy bạn ạ. Như vậy, hôm nay mình và các bạn lại khám phá thêm một bí ẩn mới ở trên bầu trời xa rồi, đúng không nào? Để cùng mình tiếp tục khám phá những bí ẩn tiếp theo thì nhớ nhấn like và ấn đăng ký kênh của mình nhé. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở video tiếp theo.